you care. You know everything, and you make me feel safe. You know what it is, you know what it is, you know everything. And then they lie, persuade, confuse, can't think about it. I could die tonight, bright lights will hide it. Take my time, control my mind in time. I can't even trust my own eyes. Study said, the experts claim the world will never be the same. The research shows, the study proves. Trust the experts. This is false, it's misunderstood. It's been debunked. This isn't good. It's getting worse, it's getting worse, it's getting worse. It's all your fault. And then they lie, persuade, confuse, can't think about it. I could die tonight, bright lights will hide it. Take my time, control my mind in time. I can't even trust my own eyes. And I know that you care, but tell me why am I so scared? And then they lie, persuade, confuse, can't think about it. I could die tonight, bright lights will hide it. Take my time, destroy my mind in time. I can't even trust my own eyes.
2 days, only 2 days until July 18th, and Bill C-9 comes into effect. Quite frankly, a lot of people are speculating on what might happen, what it might mean, but we don't know. We don't really know what is going to happen. You know, what's in this bill is a toolkit. It's a box of different tools that the government, that the Canadian regime could use against different people. I thought, you know, before this thing comes into effect, why not talk to some of the biggest dissidents in the country? Last night I talked to Francis Widdowson, and today I am talking to one of the most persecuted men in the entire country. He is the president of Second Sons. You may have known him from the Diagolon fame and the Trucker Convoy, the one and only Jeremy MacKenzie. How are you doing today, sir? It's going, it could be better. Yeah. I walk outside in Toronto, I inhaled, it smells like a campfire, which is kind of nice, but it's like, this probably isn't good for my lungs. It's like really orange here right now because of the fires. How are you doing?
Never excellent, but that's part of the fun. You got to have something to do. Every man needs a good mission. This place is very generous in providing all sorts of things worth fighting against. So thankful for that. They're complaining about echoes in the chat there.
I think it might. Oh, that's good. Yep, good. Thanks for catching that. It should be good now.
How's that?
Yeah, that must be much better. So, yeah, no, I don't understand how you can be someone in our situation of being on the further right or being someone who's aware of what's happening in Canada and not take on some sort of spiritual lens of how to look at things, like at least some sort of karma, some sort of like, this is happening for a reason. This is, our struggle for a reason. Like there's some bigger meaning to this. I've really defaulted and started to lean on that. I now identify as a Christian, just to sort of like almost out of desperation to like, make sense of the kind of environment, the kind of reality we're living in, you know?
I think that's part of maturation. I think as people get a little more mature and a little older and seek these kinds of deeper understandings about the world, themselves, and the situations we're in, inevitably you're going to come up against that, because there are just things about life and about what we go through and deal with here that just can't be explained by numbers and science and just simple political ideology and theory and all of this kind of stuff. There's more to it than that. There's certainly in the fight that we're in is a very spiritual one by nature. I've concluded that for a few years now, and I'm sticking to that because I think that's at the core of what this is. Politics, as important as they are downstream a symptom of the actual cause, which is the spirit and animating force that drives all these things in the first place. I was just working on something coming up here, but today's conservatives are yesterday's liberals, and tomorrow's liberals are today's conservatives. It doesn't mean anything. They don't really believe anything. They just go with whichever way that animating spirit is pushing them. If they're too weak to resist it, their own spirit is too eroded and softened, then they'll conform to whichever, the stronger one is. And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, 100%. We will get into the conservatives as well in terms of, what it might look like when C-9 charges come. But I also do want to talk about C-8 and C-22, not in too much detail, but essentially it's, I was doing some research on them before going live here, and I'm going to mess this up now. I think C-8 is the one that has passed, and this one can already basically spy on you. They can basically spy on us without even needing a warrant. All they need is reasonable grounds, something unsafe. So, you've joked about this for years on your podcast of like, oh, the government is listening, they're tapping our phones. And it's like, well, I think they actually have the legal precedent to do that now, like on paper, above board, not even like clandestinely. So that's good to know. But, yeah, I guess, what have you been doing? Because this is really, we were chatting about this a bit before, but like, what have you been doing to prepare for Bill C-9? As a reminder, what's going to become illegal is if you publicly communicate statements where you detest and vilify a identifiable group, something to do with intense emotion as well. But essentially, if you say something wrong about a gay person, a black person, a Jew person, a Muslim person, you can probably shit on straight white men as much as you want. But these other identifiable groups, if you say the wrong thing, if you detest and vilify intensely, then that could be up to 2 years in prison for hate criming. But what are you preparing to do? What are you doing to prepare for all this?
Well, 2 years isn't that bad. I mean, that's not the end of the world. No, I'm kidding. It's insane. But again, at C-9, C-8, C-51, 11, 12, I don't keep track of all these different numbers. And to be fair, there's a lot of, the C-8 was a carbine rifle in the military, and the C-9 was a light machine gun and so on. So these are all getting convoluted in my head. But this was all originally packaged as one Trojan horse that started to be crafted in early 2021 timeframe. Many of my chief activist critics, let's say, were instrumental in crafting and drafting this legislation and bill in the first place. And it was called the Anti-Hate Bill at the time, if you recall. And a lot of the verbiage and rhetoric and very vague framing of the terms and so on, it was clear it was aimed at myself and people like me. So this latest attempt, which I'm sure they will get through, they lost the last few because of elections. If it was still in the pipeline, everything on the table gets cleared and they have to start over. But this time, after Ottawa's successful purchase of a number of seats in Parliament, one way or another, they've acquired a majority stake in controlling the country in the House of Commons and Senate and all that. So, which is stacked with activist judges that Trudeau had put in there. So they're going to get everything that they want. There is no opposition to be had or seen anywhere. The Conservatives don't exist for that purpose. I'm not sure what purpose they think that they serve, but it's not the one that they pretend that they do. And so it's going to go through, all these things are going to go through. Now they chop them up into different portions and pieces. There's, like you said, C-9, 11, I don't remember the names or whatever, but I spent some time going over them a number of times and kind of got the gist of it. So there's a lot to go over there, but one of them, is certainly, they've always been able to spy and see everything. I've said for years, if it uses electricity, if it uses a battery, they've got it. They can listen to you in any number of ways, your phone, your devices, your computer, your television, your car, like whatever. They just can't use it in court legally because it's against the privacy laws and the Privacy Act. And in Canada and the United States, obviously very in opposition of the Constitution. But here in Canada, That's the plan. So they're going to be able to use these things against you in court, whereas they couldn't before. So they won't need. They only need what was the terminology? They said. The
one is called lawful access, I think.
Yes,
it's called like the Lawful Access Act.
Right. Yeah. Mostly peaceful protests and so on. They're going to use that. As basically a catch-all. They're just going to say, oh, look, these people or that person or this group is dangerous for reasons that we've just made up, or we'll link you to a CBC piece that we funded and wrote and directed, and we'll justify it that way. They'll do something that's called judge shopping. So just because you have you want a warrant, you want this, you want that, that judge might not let you, that one might not, but that one might. So they go around and they have certain people in mind that are more agreeable to certain things than others, and they go and they find these judges to sign off on them, and away they go. So the standard and the threshold for what is required to monitor and grab all your information and listen to you and your partner in bed at night, or your children, or any of that stuff is now way lower than it used to be. There used to be fairly robust safeguards in place for this kind of thing, but those are being wiped out. Governor General oversight in approving things like hate speech charges and so on have also been removed. That pesky Governor General.
Those actually might still be in there. I saw you mention. I think they do still need to get the permission. That's like one of the only saving graces about Bill C-9 as it's written. But I'll fact check that, because I saw you mention that in the video. I'm like, I'm not sure if that part's right. They still might need the blessing of the Attorney General.
For now, they'll again. It's always, if they go 2 steps forward and 1.9 steps back, they'll take it and they'll just go again. They'll go again. Same with the firearm confiscation that I've been talking about for years. It played out exactly, unfortunately, as I envisioned that it would. And people said, "Oh, you guys are crazy. That'll never happen. That'll never happen." Well, it did. They'll say, "We want 100 guns," and everyone will scream. And they'll say, "Okay, we'll give back 95 guns," and everyone will say, "Yay, we saved the guns." No, you lost 5 guns. And then they'll do it again. And again, exactly what they've done. And now basically everything is outlawed. They're doing the same thing with your freedom of speech, expression, association. And they just push until the taps burst, the pressure gets too high, and then they back off for a little while, let you calm down, and re-engage and keep going. And it's just like the ratchet theory effect, if people are familiar with that, where you're just tightening and tightening and tightening. And, if it gets too tight, you just leave it for a little minute, let it settle, and go back to tightening. So there's 4 or 5, I think 4 different bills coming in. This one goes into effect on the 18th, and then I think the other 2 or 3 are coming up, are going to be voted on probably in the fall, and they're all going to go through. So it's it makes the UK's laws look reasonable, and I don't even think Joseph Stalin in the Soviet Union would have even envisioned having this kind of ability to rely on people and then target them for reasons that they make up, like, as you said, hatred, which is an emotion stronger than dislike or who decides what that is? Do you have a machine? Is there some sort of scientific process that you can measure what is hatred and what is dislike? And what if someone just as a turn of phrase, people have said, since we were kids, I hate this, I hate that. Do you really hate it? Well, no, I just don't like it. I hate shoveling the driveway. Is that illegal to say? No, I hate this. I hate all kinds of things. But it's just something people say. It's an unquantified, because it is something you can't really quantify. It's happening internally inside the person, whatever they're feeling and whatever they're experiencing. The words they're using, that they're choosing to try and explain and communicate this, is unique to the individual. It's going to vary across social conditions and all sorts of different variables. So the idea that an individual or a collection of individuals, supercomputer AI involved or not, can see inside your soul and mind, and not only determine if you're hating versus just really disliking, but also where that somehow now crosses into a criminal act. An extreme dislike or even a hatred is a criminal act. That was what is being inferred by this legislation. But these are the same kinds of people who think nothing of killing Charlie Kirk and celebrating it and laughing about it. And any number of the Zegarak guy got in his Jeep Patriot and plowed over a bunch of people in Winnipeg during a convoy. There's all kinds of legitimate terrorism occurring, coming from the left wing and their activists and their things that they do. Which, I mean, how is that not motivated by hatred? So it's not real. It's not sincere. It's not a real attempt to erase the emotion of hatred, which is just a feeling that people get. And what it is actually is a wonderful C.S. Lewis quote that I really like, that I stumbled upon one day, that sums this up much faster than I ever could. Anger, or perhaps hatred, is the fluid that love bleeds when you cut it. So, it comes from something you love being harmed. If I caught someone abusing, my children or something, I would be filled with a very righteous anger and hatred and rage to correct that situation. That's normal. That preserves your survivability, your dignity, all sorts of things. It's a motivation and an energy that's summoned in response to something else. No one just wakes up and decide, oh, what a nice day. The birds are chirping, the sun is shining. I think I'll go downtown and punch some Indians because I hate them so much. That doesn't. There's something has occurred to then make these people upset or angry, and rather than talk to them like the convoy about what that is or what the cause could be, we'll just beat them with horses and guns and put them in jail. These are the kinds of people that we have running this country. They're un-Canadian. They're not representative of who we are as a people or our spirit or anything righteous or benevolent that I would want to be associated with here in Canada or abroad now or at any time in history.
Yeah. Here's the quote that you just mentioned from C.S. Lewis. Anger is the fluid that love bleeds when you cut it. Mm-hmm. He's the same guy that wrote Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, or whatever that series was. And here was the definition as well for those curious. This is what C-9 essentially does. It sort of creates a specific definition of what hatred means. It's an emotion of an intense and extreme nature that is clearly associated with vilification and detestation. So, like you just said, what does that actually mean? How is that actually enforced? It opens the door.
Hatred means an emotion of an intense and extreme nature that is clearly associated.
Oh my God! I didn't even know I could do that. Sorry, I just had my voice to text speaking. I didn't know I could do that. That's really creepy. Yeah. So, and I'll try to briefly go over the sort of other bills as well. I don't know the specifics of which one is from which, but there's C-8, which I believe is already in effect, and there's C-22. And the worst case nightmare scenario is if they use all of these three different bills together, is they could find a tweet, find a comment that's public, call it hatred, call it criminal hatred, and then they can find a couple of these or find one of these, say that's reasonable grounds. Okay, we have our reasonable grounds that this person's unsafe or whatever. Now let's potentially look through his phone for more evidence. Apparently, I think the outrageous one, C-22, which hasn't passed yet, that even Google is against, is saying hey, I don't think we should be just taking people's data for a year. They want to get everyone's data for a year. Text messages, emails, what they're subscribed to, all sorts. It's an insane amount of invasiveness into your personal information, and even China is whoa, what the hell are you doing over there, Canada? That's crazy. But essentially, the nightmare scenario is they find the tweets, they say it's criminal. They collect more data to create a case against you, and then they can actually unplug you off the internet. I actually saw Viva Fry talking about this, and I'm like, maybe they're going to do a new thing in Canada where it's not only do you get debanked, you get dephoned. Yeah. You can't even have a phone. You can't even have internet access. You get banned from existing online, which is in 2026 to not have that capability is really probably not as bad as debanking, but it's pretty close, pretty damn close.
It's basically a public service. It wouldn't be much different than cutting off someone's electricity.
Yeah,
it's not optional. This isn't 2005 where a cell phone is a nice luxury kind of fun thing to have. It's built into. I mean, you want to use Service Canada, you want to pay get a banking appointment. Everything is done over apps and phones and devices and things now. Internet for sure. Whether you even have a phone or not, if you have a desktop or a laptop or a tablet, you can't use that either.
If you want to sign up, to anything, you need what's your cell phone so you can verify. You always need that.
Yeah, and you need email addresses for contact information. It's just the internet is how the world works now and communicates now, no different than when everything switched to electricity at the turn of the century during the Industrial Revolution. It's like saying you're not allowed to use motor vehicle transportation, only horses or your own legs, and somehow you're meant to, get around the world when our cities and countries and the world has been set up around motorized industry and transportation, but you're not allowed to participate because some women's studies liberal arts major activist somewhere decided that your internal process of emotional regulation was beyond the bounds of what she deems appropriate in whatever delusional world fantasy 1984 nightmare that they're trying to apply to society.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it's it's really unnerving. I'm trying to create content, have a conversation with you, like I said, because we don't know what's going to happen when this bill comes into effect. That being said, it is really disappointing because sure, something might not happen right away. They might not try to target people and yada yada, because I was saying this last night in my podcast. It is sort of a double-edged sword. Yes, they can try to make Jeremy MacKenzie's life even worse. However, everyone's going to see that, and then that's going to undermine their legitimacy, unless they, obviously they're going to try to do a trial by media and make a show of it. But they need to make, if they're going to persecute someone unfairly, they need to try to make it look as legitimate as possible. So that's kind of one of the saving graces of why I don't think, the sky is going to fall on Saturday. However, the reason it really sucks is if there is a very important protest in the future, if there is a very contentious issue in the future, if there is like something else going on, not like the convoy would happen again, but something like that, something where a protest is critically important for, whatever issue or value or, existential crisis going on in the country. Now the government has a fully decked out toolkit to completely destroy everyone who's a problem at that moment. And like another way to think of it is if the convoy happened and they had all this stuff in law, oh my gosh, dude, no. Offense motivated by hatred to be mischief. Then they'd add the offense motivated by hatred charge. And then, it would just be a bloodbath in terms of what they could do to peaceful protesters, That's what's most terrifying about it. It's they have these tools now and we can't take them away easily.
Yeah. And they will want to use them. They haven't spent years and years, I would say 5 years or 6 years maybe, trying to get this through. The same entities and individuals at work to get, they've been after this for quite some time. And I expect that there'll be the stroke of midnight at 12:01 on the 18th. They're going to be filing, deploying the goblins to be offended and be harmed online by whatever it is that they have queued up. I'm sure they've got a target list and priority, probably a whole campaign ready to be unleashed here as soon as it goes. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think that they're going to, I see people saying, oh, they're going to arrest everybody. No, they don't need to arrest everybody. And in fact, they couldn't, because there's nowhere to put anyone. This is something that conservatives and any of the government, I saw the liberals recently, we're going to have more strict conditions for bail and yes, but there's nowhere to put anyone, Sean. The jails are full. I've been in your jails. There's nowhere to put them. That's why that's why they're out in the street, because they're completely full. You've filled this country with criminal swine, and there's nowhere left to put them. And now they're just running around our neighborhoods and communities, killing people and stealing and destroying with abandon and no consequences. So they're just wasting everyone's time there. But I don't think they're going to arrest everybody. What they will do is, as you alluded to, is find a couple of priority targets. If they can get me, they would love to. People like myself, and really make a big show of that and create a chill effect and scare people. Because you want to end up with that guy. Do you see what happened to that guy? Well, he had an opinion and now he's in jail for 20 years. Some of these penalties carry life sentences for offending people. So that's all that will be needed. And people say, oh, that won't stop me. Yes, it will. We already know who's who in the zoo in this country, the people who are willing to stand up and say anything or do anything or endure any kind of inconvenience or discomfort. We've had ample opportunity in the last 6 to 7 years for those people to make themselves known and say something and do something. And the truth is, there's just not very many. There's not enough. There are some, but there's not enough. So the idea that all of a sudden everybody's just going to become badasses is just not true. And There's a lot of people, and I've experienced this a lot. I've been at this for years. A lot of people will talk a big game, and then somebody will show up at their house with a badge, and the next thing you know, you'll never hear from them again, and they're a good boy, and they delete everything, and that's that. And they didn't do anything to them. All it took was a knock on the door and a visit, and they are hightailing it out of here forever. Some of them even left the country without even so much, because someone else was visited. They left Canada forever. And these are, previously people that are, I'm Canada first and I'm here to the end, or until I get, uncomfortable and then I run away immediately like a frightened squirrel. Either way. So they'll look for, heads to put on the wall, trophies of some kind. They're not going to just go after everybody. Whether that takes place immediately on the 18th, well, that really depends on what's available. Part of what makes this particular set of incoming laws so insidious and deceptive and evil is the nature of which they've written it is deliberately deceptive and meant to trick people and lure them into getting arrested without knowing it. The spirit of the law is very, very nasty and malevolent on its own. So you'll see, I've been telling people, look, you're going to get punished for things. You could be punished. I could have been punished for things I put on the internet 5 years ago. And then this is what I call the new Wikipedia or Google. Hey, Google, people will just type in and, give me an answer. Hey, Grok, is this true? If you're not asking the right questions, you're not going to get the right answers. So people say, Grok, is this true? And Grok says, no, it's not retroactive, blah, blah, blah. And they go, there, see? I say, well, wait a minute. Did you read the bill? The internet in Canada, according to our courts, is the public space. It's no different than being downtown in front of the whole city. The internet is a public space, and public space is the internet. They are one and the same. And the way the bill is that ongoing digital communications, i.e. this live stream or any podcast or any post or anything you ever put on the internet is in the public space and is an ongoing digital communication. In other words, I can go watch it right now. I don't care if you put it up 10 years ago. I just saw it today. And you know what? I'm very offended and I feel very harmed today. So therefore, you will be charged today for online harming those people. So it's not retroactive. It is in spirit, but it's not. But it is, but it's not. And that's how it works. So, and then if you refine the question, it will say, oh, well, yes, that is the case. And there is that. And even so, if there's nothing that they can pull up as a very, slam dunk example of something they can use to charge you with today because someone was hurt by something you said that they just saw today, it might as well happen today. They can take a few things that are borderline perhaps and try to lay a charge by demonstrating a pattern of hate and abuse and targeting of identifiable groups and all these sorts of things. So they can say, well, Your Honor, this on its own may not be that big of a deal. However, look at this example and that example and that example and that going back 5 years. Your Honor, this person is just an engine of hatred and only exists to hate people and no one is safe and so on and so on and so on. So all of this previous ongoing digital communications that you are responsible for in perpetuity, according to this country, can be used against you in that way. So I would caution people to take that very seriously. And if you think, and I learned this the hard way, out of naivety to say that, oh, that's the pot. No one is going to go to those lengths just to get little old me. That's crazy. Oh, yes, they will. They are very spiteful, mutant people and exist to exact harm and pain onto people that they don't like, which is us, and they've got control of the government. So they're absolutely going to look for any excuse and any reason. Like for the same reason, I can't really speed. If I'm driving 10 kilometers over the speed limit, they could charge me with stunt driving or something and take my license and impound my vehicle. Like they absolutely will. If you think because you wouldn't, because you're a reasonable person and this isn't that big of a deal. That doesn't mean that they are. And we've already seen that the police in this country and our judiciary and our lawmakers, do not have any opinion or seem to care or have anything regarding a soul. They did everything that they were told to do through COVID and beyond. They totally trampled all over the Canadian Charter of Rights and Constitution and the spirit of which those things were written. They obeyed the abuse and participated in the abuse of our citizens, and worse, their own guys. They rolled over on their own people. This is who is in the police today. The police today are the cops of yesterday who stabbed their own guys in the back, who said this is wrong and we shouldn't be doing this, they ran all of those guys out of town, all of those military officers out of town, all of those doctors out of town, anybody who questioned, which was very, very definitively, obviously, a crime against the Canadian people, were run out of town. So now we only have yes men and rule followers and careerists and people who will do whatever it takes for them and to just Monday to Friday, paycheck is a paycheck, paid for my pool, and so on. So again, if you think, oh, well, they won't go, yes, they will, and they don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. The amount of like good people in our institutions who left because they didn't take the vaccine.
Or just said they didn't agree with it. They maybe took them and said, "Well, I'll do it, but I don't think we should be forcing people to do that." Well, you're out of here. You know, and again, we have a Charter of Rights and a Bill of Rights, and it's optional whether the government wants to obey or follow that or not, evidently.
And so in preparation for Bill C-9, are you like deleting old tweets and things like this?
Okay. So I spent a significant amount of time, and I think it was a good exercise. A lot of tweets. I had to get rid of a lot of things. And I pulled down everything that I have access to because it's just why, it doesn't serve any purpose. There's not any value in that. No one is going to go and peruse 7 years of my online history minute by minute and to try, it's just not, it doesn't serve any purpose except to serve potentially as ammunition for my enemies and our enemies to use as a way to manipulate and, put people into a box. I mean, I have copies of mostly everything, some things that are quite old. Obviously I can't go back and get, but I pulled as much down as possible because again, the ongoing digital communications on my end, from everything that I'm in control of, I can't do anything more than that. If someone has taken content of mine and things I've produced over the years from years ago and put it elsewhere, I can't do anything about that. That's their problem. And if they want to still try to press that, I'll say, look, Your Honor, I've done everything in my power to be in compliance with this new set of laws and affairs, and I'm doing my absolute best to maintain, order and all of that and play the game. But these people simply don't want that and are, this is political targeting and so on. So that's really the best you can do.
This would never happen, but it would be hilarious if, Antifa or Evan Ballagord himself archived all of your spiciest moments and then posts it. And then you get a good lawyer and it's like, well, he is promoting this hatred. I
have a good lawyer.
It's not me. I was in the clip, but I deleted that off the internet. Evan Ballagord viciously posting this on the internet, spreading this hatred.
Well,
I can't believe it.
I hope they have a lot of money because the thing is, you have to prove that evidence is real. And every single piece of it will be challenged in the age of AI. Every second of every clip and every tweet and every screen, everything you have is we don't know if that's even real or not. So you're going to have to go get independent experts and tech guys and forensic experts to go and buy for the very painstaking process that every frame and every tweet, this is all legit and real, and then carry on from that point. So that first of all is going to be contended. So it's really not intelligently done. I mean, a lot of people are worried and concerned about this, and as they should be, as they are right to do so. But it's written for a time, for 4 years ago. This was the rules they've thought up and dreamt up for back then, and people just have to adapt. We're on the side of pro-life and pro-natural law and God, in my opinion, and as such, we have an unlimited access to creativity, to the forces of life and nature. And there is always another way. There is always another path. And there is always a different method. They can ban a word. You can invent another one. They cannot ban or sign away and legislate people in such a manner that they just no longer have these thoughts and they don't have these feelings. They don't have these impulses and they don't have these desires or hatreds. There's nothing you can do about that. It will go somewhere and it will come out somewhere. And they know this. So what they've done is created sort of these mousetrap scenarios where people will fall into these little pits unknown that, I didn't know this was illegal, because it's crazy to think it would be in any other country, in any other time period, it would be. But not in Canada now. And then they'll just trap them and put them in jail and use that to scare people. They're not ruling through legitimacy or respect. they're ruling through fear and intimidation, which is a hallmark of tyrants and people who don't deserve to be in power, who have taken it illegitimately. And they're going to destroy themselves with what they're doing. They've done these things for years. They've come after me repeatedly and other people like yourself. And I can only speak for myself, but I've done a lot in the last 7 years, and everything that they've done to try to hurt me and destroy me has had the opposite effect and has only made me a more refined and sharper weapon against them. In the end, I've gotten more done and I have more positive impact on my own life and the people around me and our community and the club effort and everything in the past couple of years than I ever would have years ago. And none of that would have been possible had it not been for the repeated attacks and laying traps and mines and all these things everywhere and shooting at you. So you just adapt to the fight, and eventually they'll run out of ideas. And further, they're fighting from a position of weakness. People think, well, they're powerful and they're gaining power. They're actually losing it. Our side is becoming more dedicated and more committed and more cohesive and together and more professional and working harder and more careful and more all of these things. It was far more than look at the landscape from 7 years ago and compare it to today. Mm-hmm. It's wildly different. And theirs is unearned. They didn't have to earn their way in there. They didn't have to suffer or sacrifice or bleed in any metaphorical or otherwise way to get to where they are. It's like a child throwing a tantrum. Just smash and smash and smash and scream. And if it doesn't work, they do it harder and louder and it doesn't work. And they just keep repeating this process. So they're accumulating and centralizing power in the state over from the individual and from our communities. But it's having the opposite of the effect that they want, which is compliance and obedience. It's just pissing people off. And eventually, I mean, you're already seeing it. The people don't want to answer the census. People don't want to go to work. People don't want to pay taxes. People don't want to answer the phone. Like nobody is really putting an effort in anymore. There's no real pride in their workmanship or ownership because it's kind of a waste of time. And the graduated income tax, you work harder to pay more taxes. What's the point? The harder they squeeze, the less life and vitality there is in the country of people to give a damn, which lowers our productivity, our GDP, our cohesion, our sense, like why obey? Why, who cares? Like, why would I pay extra taxes and go out of my way to work harder for a government that hates me? It's just continuing the spiral. They are destroying themselves. It is going to get tighter and more difficult in the future, but this doesn't end in the way that they think that it does or hope that it does.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of great points there. I got to talk to Maximilian Markel from Germany. He's this nationalist from Germany. He's been debanked. He's been banned on a lot of stuff. And I asked him, what's the craziest speech law in Germany? And he had to think for a long time about it. But he's like, basically certain combinations of words are just illegal. And I'm like, oh, like criminal migrant? He's like, yeah, yep, there you go. But he's like, we've come up with code words. We say those people, or we say Merkel's guests. Or, some leftist calls, immigrants.
New truckers.
Right. New truckers.
Trainee Tim Hortons employees.
Exactly. And he was like, some leftists called immigrants gold because they're so valuable. And he's like, who committed the crimes? It's the barrels of gold. But like you said, there's no way to really stop these thoughts, to stop these feelings. People are always going to adapt to the kind of environment and the kind of climate. And I think another great point you brought up, which I've mentioned before, is the difference between TikTok or YouTube banning your content. They don't have to give an explanation why. They can just kind of take it down and say, oh, because of bullying. They don't have to be specific. However, if you're criminally charging somebody with hate speech, they have to say, this is why it's criminal. This is specifically what's criminal. And that's going to be, scrutinized, obviously, by the public. And it's going to be on record. This is why the government of Canada threw this person in jail who committed no violent crime. So, they do have to be careful if they do want to kind of deploy this. All that being said, I am concerned that they might go full North Korea, full China mode, where it's like they'll charge people, rip them off the internet so you can't defend yourself. And then it's also like, oh, there's a publication ban. Oh, and there's an NDA so that no one can actually talk about why we arrested that person. That's the real nightmare scenario. I don't know if they're capable of doing this. I was going to say, I think there was one example, though, of some right-wing guy who's Christian and was talking about Jews and things like this. And he got charged, I think, with one of the hate speech crimes. And I think they put a publication ban around his scenario. And it's like, well, if it's an issue of speech causing a crime and we can't even talk about what he talked about to get him thrown in jail, like that's absurd. And if there's more of that, that's definitely not good.
Yeah. And those are the people that are really more in danger than someone like myself. Because like you said, if they came after me, like a lot of people would know and find out, and like quickly, like there would be a mobilization effort to, fight that. The people who, let's say they have a large Twitter account with a bunch of followers who don't really know you, like you can erase an account and you'd never know. There could be someone I've been following on Twitter that could have happened to them yesterday or last week or last month. I don't get a notification. No one's going to tell me. So if no one's in that world, like being anonymous and hiding in the kind of, there's a lot of disadvantages to that. Chiefly one of that being if someone comes and black bags you and no one's ever going to know. Who are they looking for? They don't know who you are. The government does know who you are.
And oddly, I don't know all the different examples from the UK very well, but whenever I did see examples, it was always like some mom or pop on Facebook who like doesn't even have a following, but kind of just popped off the handle and said something, especially racial or something or aggressive. And it's like, this is someone who doesn't even have a platform, but in a way it's easier to go after that person and make an example of that person. And in a way it stops the kind of critical mass from rising up, because we already have like a dissident here, a dissident there with their, they're already up there, but it's like getting the rest of the people to be emboldened enough to like adopt and actually voice the same views. They try to suppress that by like, picking off like the little guys. So I think you're right. There's almost more of a risk for people that have less of an online platform. Similar to this too. This is kind of interesting because, you peddle in the world of comedy as well. I was thinking like,
goddamn comedy peddling.
That's right. I think it was Edgy D showed me someone who's been charged in the past. I don't know if it was in America or Canada, but like he created these like aggressive satirical songs about like Jewish power and like conspiracies and things like this. And like, the songs were amusing, but I'm thinking like these are on BitChute and they don't have that many views. And like maybe they're not that funny. And it's like, that's a huge risk, because like there's a lot of I have a comedy song where I make fun of, like, it's my number one viewed post on Instagram. It's making fun of Indians for like being stinky and taking jobs. And it's like, but because it's popular, like that's probably not going to get me catching a charge, or at least that would like, that would be a lot more harder for them to legitimately do that. But like now when I'm like posting a comedy video or like a parody song, it's like, it better be funny. It better be good, because if it's not good, then I might just be hanging out there and like be something. Oh, well, that's not really funny. So yeah, just lock them up. But I was saying this last night, like it's so important for people like us to be as relatable as possible, as funny, as persuasive, as popular. That, like it's human. So like the average Canadian can like sympathize with us and be like, we're the people who are on the right here, actually.
Yeah. And they're just, again, it's the animating force that they follow. That's where this is all coming from. And it's evil. And it's the devil wearing a skin suit. And it's pretending, it's trying to inhabit roles and positions that it doesn't fit. It's not meant for that. So in the instant, like the example of the police, they're rapidly, I mean, you can see them in the UK, what they've become and what they've turned into. And just look at the personnel in the ranks. It's a lot of fat, demoralized, a lot of women and migrant. Like, this is not the police anymore. And anyone who would, like, that job is a person, a type of person, men typically, who have a passion, desire, like they want to protect people. They want to, because we know the world is dangerous and there's bad people and there's all kinds of things out there. Somebody's got to do that. And there are some guys who that's what they want to do. That's what makes them feel good. That's what gives them a purpose and meaning. And that's what they're for. And those are not the guys who are becoming police anymore, because that's not the job anymore. It's political prosecution. It's looking the other way. It's assisting organized crime and drug dealers and protecting politicians. And so the actual force that you're supposed to have of these robust and capable, heroic, kind of courageous men no longer exists. It's just a bunch of yes men and stooges and minority women and people that fit some sort of visual box of, look at all the different races and disabilities we have at the, Chicago police or something. That's not a police force. Like, we don't have an army anymore. We don't have a police force anymore. We don't have a government anymore. So that can last for a bit, but again, it's wearing a skin suit of itself, and it's just going to collapse into nothing eventually. Mm-hmm. And as they do these things, and They're again, they're ruling by fear and intimidation. It's not through respect. It's not through like an earned sort of admiration, or people are like, well, I mean, they're up there for a reason because they're, look at what they've done and look at what they've, accomplished and so on. It's just they're there because they've stolen, or lied or cheated their way in there. And any respect and credibility that they have, they carve a piece of that off every time they do something like abuse their power or put someone in jail who shouldn't, or do something that people know is against the natural spirit of natural law, like putting somebody's mom in jail for a Facebook post because she was mad about immigrants because the neighbor's kid was run over by a car that day. Obviously, that's not what anybody wants to see. And almost everyone is going to agree, like, well, should she have said that? Well, I don't know. But is that really the problem? Or is the problem people getting run over by cars and so on? So every time they do these things, you're carving a piece of your own credibility off, and you're trading it for more temporary power and influence to kind of squash and crush, this latest symptom problem that's popped up, and then that creates more, and they keep bleeding credibility and respect, and eventually they will have none at all. And it's getting close to there. I think England is close. The UK is on the path to a civil war. I don't know if it's guaranteed, but it certainly is well on its way to there. And that's because of that behavior. The only way you can avoid conflict and out and out just unlimited political violence or just war based on those parameters is by talking and coming to negotiating some sort of agreement where everybody can go home and feel like, okay, we can live with this. Nobody's going to be super happy about it, but it's better than the alternative, and we can live with this. That's not allowed anymore. And certainly not in Canada, because the last time we tried that, and Canada led the world in this. The entire world was watching us in Ottawa for a time there for 3 weeks in 2022. The United States didn't do this, and England didn't do this, and France didn't do this. And these global powers of people who are bastions of freedom and liberty, the Canadian people did that, and the entire world watched us there. And it was the most Canadian protest you'd ever see. They tried to frame it like an insurrection. There was no violence to be heard of whatsoever. They cleared the entire streets top to bottom in Ottawa. Didn't find not even a broken piece of glass, nothing, and used that and said, oh, you know what? They're all criminals anyway, and they're all terrorists. So that destroyed a lot of their credibility and faith in the state and so on. And it served to bring a lot of the people together and further kind of draw up the contrast of what this is. This isn't a disagreement. This isn't them just not understanding. They're choosing not to listen to us, to not help, and they don't want to understand. They just want you to do what you're told, and anyone who doesn't will be beaten. That's not how this is supposed to work. That's not a democratic country. That is not any place anybody wants to live. And the longer this goes on, the bank account or the credit at the credibility and respect store is going to run out. And eventually they'll say, well, now we're doing this or that. And everyone's going to say, no, I don't care, make me. And we're going to have a problem on our hands, which is why they're, again, predictably and stupidly, but they are doing it. They're aiming to form a 300,000 to 400,000 man domestic security force of poorly trained militiamen that I suspect will be primarily staffed by migrants.
Yeah, no, I saw you guys post that video on that on your Second Sons feed, and it's so funny how people respond to this, and they'll say, "Oh my God," like they're calling for violence, and it's like, did you hear the part where he's concerned about these foreign citizen militia, but run by the government? Like this is a genuine concern. Even Kearney says we're becoming more divided and destructive than ever. And it's like, let's give a bunch of foreigners guns and the authority to police other people. That is a nightmare scenario. I want to shout out to Darth Wizzy Wizard with the $7 super chat. Well done, gents. Thank you for the donation. Of course, if you have a question for Jeremy, then put it in chat there. Send a super chat. I did want to. I really love the topic that you just brought up, because it's not really anything new. If you look at history, if you look at what historians have said about the rise and fall of different, especially regimes who are more authoritarian and tough, they talk about legitimacy, how certain things they did were overreaching and undermined their legitimacy, and then there was a change of order or there was an uprising or something like this. And that is important to keep in mind, to remind people that we are living through history right now. And I say this to give people back their agency, because I'm sure you've seen a lot of this, Jeremy, especially over the past 6 years, this type of black pilling where it's all a conspiracy and it's all totally out of our control and we can't do anything about it. And Jeremy MacKenzie's a Fed and like all this stuff where it's like, it's actually simple to do that, to like oversimplify it. And then you don't have to do anything. But when you get into the convoy being a great example of how the different details, the different kind of things that coalesced in that moment, how you navigated that after the fact by getting, pulling this expensive lawyer out of your ass and actually defending yourself and beating your charges. Like that was an act that you took to navigate those waters. And same with every other dissident who had their own thing going on. And sure, there's subversion going on in there. There's probably government operatives in there. But the point is like, this is not all a foregone conclusion, guys. And I see so many people online who like take it as a foregone conclusion, Canada's over, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, no. Yeah, they passed C-9, but like now they have to try to actually persecute us or prosecute us with this. What would that actually look like? How are they going to be legitimate doing this? That's actually a really tall order. And we actually have a lot of, advantages to where we are on this landscape. Because there are a lot of Canadians who are just watching the quality of life decline, and like less and less of this kind of progressive woke stuff is adding up for the average citizen, right?
Yep. And, I've got as much or more reason to be depressed and black-pilled and give up than probably anybody. And that's not me, patting myself on the back. I'm just I'm very Scottish and very stubborn. So it's just sort of, the harder they hit me, the more I want to fight them, sort of thing. But I just use a lot of fighting analogy because that's, one of the only things I know about it all. And it's, so they pass a bill, they did this or that. It's like, okay, well, you broke your rib in between round 7 and 8. Okay, well, that's just another thing that has to do. You're quitting? Like, we're not done. That's just, you have now this to deal with or that to deal with. Like, there's always another development. There's always another leg in the right. They wouldn't have to do these things if it was over. They wouldn't have to go to these lengths. It would just snap your fingers and you wouldn't even be able to say anything. There is still a back and forth happening. And again, it seems that from the, to the average, to somebody who's maybe not familiar with a lot of the stuff, it just at first glance, it's just got it locked down and buttoned up, and it's nothing else you can do, so just give up and run away. Well, no one's really trying to do anything. It reminds me of that Simpsons quote, or that old scene where, like, I think it was Milhouse's parents, ironically enough. Oh, we tried nothing, and we're all out of ideas. The convoy didn't work, so like, well, what was convoy? And I'm not knocking it. It served its purpose. This is all an evolution. It wasn't a thing that happened on its own. It started, it ended, and that's it. We're going through a process. We're going through an evolution and a change in the society that's been taking place since the 60s. It's culminating now in the effects of those decisions and changes that were made in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and they're now all starting to really come to a head. And these things take time. They take generations and lifetimes to move. The people, our enemies that we're dealing with, are not people that think Monday to Friday, just doing my job, pension, paycheck, promotion, go home. They think decades, generationally, 25 years, 50 years, 100 years. Some of them are literally in cults and believe all sorts of crazy stuff. So they think on a much bigger picture and much bigger timeline than most people do. So they think, they look outside and go, well, I don't see anything happening right now, so everything must be fine. Well, it's not. Ukraine is not fine, and the Iran situation. Trust me, things are not fine all over the place. But just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So anyway, there's a lot of road to go left yet, and there's still quite a few of us. I mean, we are losing a lot of numbers. We're going to be a minority in our own country very soon, but we became a world power militarily in the Second and First World War. Not we couldn't knock off the United States or anything like that, or really, make a run for the belt, but we were no slouch, and we had a serious, formidable force, and that was mobilized by the people, by the country, on our own. We didn't have help. We didn't have money. We didn't have much of anything. We had, I think, 8 million people in the First World War. And look at the size of the force that we produced. We have 23, 24 million people now. In the Second World War, we had the third or fourth largest navy in the world. Canada produced, and it built it from nothing. We didn't have a navy and said, oh, geez, boys, best we need some boats or what? And then built the fourth biggest navy in the world. We've rebuilt Halifax was destroyed, and we rebuilt the whole thing out of spite. Again, it's just, we're very capable of doing all sorts of things, but the problem is nobody believes in themselves or the country or each other, and that's by design and definition. And I think they fear the Canadian because we're a Frankenstein of superhumans. You've got the English and the French and the Irish and the Scottish all rolled up into one. That's a problem of a freak to deal with. I don't know whose idea it was to mix these people together, but they did, and I think that's my conspiracy. That's to keep the Maple Man down. I think they're afraid of that more than anything. But there's also wild cards. There's also other things on play here. There's the Heisenberg effect, which is something I've come to really appreciate over the last year or so. A friend of mine mentioned this to me. Who's a very, very smart guy. Is an engineer and a physicist. And the Heisenberg principle is essentially, I'm going to lose a lot of your audience here. I don't know. I'm basically a moron. I don't know anything about particle physics, but I'm just, the layman's version is, a particle is like it's the smallest thing we can see of matter of reality. And to measure it, you can measure where it is or how fast it's going, but not both at the same time. It can't be done because it's a wave and it's all these sorts of things. It's just there is a limit to that. And because of it, there is an inherent amount of chaos and randomness in all things. It's built into reality, like a particle. This pen is made out of, I don't know how many trillions of particles or something. Mm-hmm. But there is, in everything is moving all the time. Our physical being, our biology, everything is moving and changing and adjusting. You don't see it, but it is happening. And inside of that, at the particle level, there is a random chance from the particle level up, scaled up. Kind of the paradox here, that the Heisenberg principle is the more that you focus in on one area, the less you're seeing somewhere else. And there's no way around this. So the more that they hyper focus on this issue or that issue, there are other things that they're not seeing, can't see, and don't even occur to them to look at because it's all finite. It's all limited. You can't be everywhere at once, as I think they think this AI is going to fix it for them. But I mean, the AI is not as smart as they think it is. So there's that problem. Black swan events happen all the time. One of the biggest things that conspiracy theory people fall prey to is the idea that everything is under some sort of supernatural enemy control. There's nothing you can do. Just sit around and be entertained by it and whine about it and cry about it. And then, did you see this? Did you see that? Did you see this? Did you see that? Next thing 40 years have gone by and you've done nothing with your life but complain and drink a lot. That's great for them. They love that. That's a slave that pays taxes and consumes things and chips in money and, more importantly, your life energy to their end. You're serving their purposes, not yours or anyone else's. So they're fine with that. They don't mind that. You're allowed to do those things. But anybody who starts to take that back, take your own life energy and spirit and away out of their hands and trying to give it to yourself and buttress your own friends and community and support, well, now you're going to have a problem. Then they come after those people. You've got the return to the land guy in the United States who's being attacked for trying to build a community there. You've got the South African community in Orania that's you're not allowed to do that. You've active clubs. These people are getting together in groups in the park. And there was a protest here in Halifax. The premier was assaulted yesterday. Before they were on his car and so on, and it was the CBC is like, oh well, it's a little bit of a peaceful protest. Me and some of the fellow, I don't know, 30 of us or something, we stood on a bridge for 10 minutes with a sign, and it drew an entire citywide response of all available police on like 12 different cars, everybody available at that moment in time, multiple 911 calls and everything. They wrote a news story about it and all of this. So, obviously things are not being applied equally. And anyway, there's going to be a lot of random chaos and things we're not going to know exist. People think, oh, that came out of nowhere. Nothing comes out of nowhere. Not usually, almost never. It's because you can only look at so much. There's probably things happening around me right now I'm oblivious to and won't find out until it happens. And then, it's just how it is. You have to appreciate the limits of our consciousness and what we can look at and see all the time. But they definitely not have total control over it. Or the Epstein thing, was that ever supposed to see the light of day? There's all sorts of things that are not supposed to happen, or are not ideal. Building 7 and 9/11. Oh, it just fell down. Well, that wasn't the plan. Obviously, there was other things that were. Nothing ever really goes off perfectly, and then it just becomes management. How do you spin this? How do you twist that? There's entire teams of PR people and very well-paid professionals to manage narratives and spin things and stuff all the time. So there's a very real back and forth fight going on. WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, that kind of thing. Like, these things happen. So there's always that to worry about. And another wild card, especially for us here in Canada, is the United States. You mentioned Google earlier. And now I don't think Google is very concerned with people's privacy. I'm for sure they don't really give a damn at all. I'm pretty sure it's an evil company. And YouTube, hi Susan, they don't care at all. But there is an image and a facade that they have to present to the American people to maintain themselves, which is freedom of thought, expression, speech, the American way of life, which Canada is very going hard in the other direction against. And there are a lot of Americans that work and live in Canada who are going to be subjected to this. Now, it's very possible, the tech companies in America, they can see this is a leverage opportunity for negotiating tactics to get extra money at concessions out of auto. Who knows? But they could just go, okay, well, Canada's doing also. Facebook's gone, Instagram's gone, Twitter's gone. Everybody just there. We're not operating in Canada anymore. You're only the market the size of California. Who cares? Whoop-de-doo. So we'll lose a few $1 billion. Yeah. We'll just steal it from the American taxpayer and pay off. We don't need to. The tech companies could easily just say, okay, we're not playing anymore. So now what? There's a lot of they've suggested that they may do just that as well, and even sue Ottawa for lost revenue because they're like, look, we can't operate our business in your country under these conditions. It's against our laws and constitution, and our citizens are being affected by it. So we're going to sue you for infringing on our business rights.
The authoritarian appetite of the current government should not be understated whatsoever. When you have some of the most powerful, literally the most powerful companies in the entire world, big tech in Silicon Valley, with who has the most data on the planet, even they are like, whoa, Canadian government, whoa, hold your horses.
Yeah.
You guys are being way too aggressive. And like you said, that what you just said sounds absurd. What, they're going to shut off Google in Canada? They're going to shut off these services in Canada? That's actually not unprecedented. They've already started to do that with specific bills having to do with sharing news online. Because the government's like, we want you to pay us to share our news?
Yeah.
Doesn't even make sense. Does not even make sense. Facebook, all this stuff is free for everybody. You don't even have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Canadian government, but they're like, we want money for your free service.
When South Park memes become real, they have a knack for that. And that was an old Canadian episode. We want more money. What do you mean, Canada? You want more? We want more money. Give us some of that internet money. The internet's got lots of money. Give us some of that internet money. That's our government. That's essentially their plan. And then hide under some coats and hope that somehow everything works out.
That's way too accurate. It's way too accurate. Here's the clip you just mentioned of Tim Houston's car getting attacked. I was going to tweet this, but I thought to myself, imagine this was like a Second Sons demonstration.
Imagine if that was me on the roof of that. I would have been shot dead.
Yeah, it would be a national holiday. It would be like, oh my God, it's the end of democracy. Democracy dies in darkness. What are we going to do about these people? But because they are, it looks like they're from a hippie commune, and because they're talking about, what were they? This says save the library on it, this sign.
Yeah.
Save the library.
Part of it, I mean, he's very unpopular. I think he'll be replaced soon. I was half tempted to go over there and give them his home address. You want to know where the premier lives? He's over here. You can go talk to him directly. He's cut a lot of funding for arts programs, museums, that sort of thing. Like, I have family members that were affected by this who are losing jobs and hours and time. So probably libraries, these kinds of things. He's very unpopular. Also, a lot of the First Nations communities are very upset because a big income for them was the dispensaries, cannabis dispensaries, which they've cracked down on big time and are trying to outlaw, and they're raiding people and doing all this kind of stuff. It's not that we're against weed. It's just that you have to buy it from us, the government. No one else is allowed to. So that's causing problems. There's really nowhere to go. Recently, he went to some, I don't know what it was, some sort of gala dinner or something for the African community. It's all just a bunch of black people, and he showed and started talking, and it was, I don't even know what he said. He couldn't get through. They just started booing him immediately. So he doesn't have any friends. He's not liked anywhere. No one voted for him. None of this is real. Again, I still, I feel sad for people who, we just need to vote. We just need to. Well, I don't concern myself with them because they're not very serious. They're not really that interested in what's going on, because if they were and they had a brain, they would have concluded that, well, that's a complete dead end. That's preschool. That's kindergarten. That's kind of grade one of problem solving, because that's the obvious go-to. Is like, well, the government's bad. We need a new one. The election, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me know how that goes. People have been trying to do that for decades, and you'll find it's very corrupt. It's very underhanded and shady and deceptive, and it's very, 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 very not what it appears to be, and a waste of everyone's time. So I wouldn't recommend going down that route. But yeah, he's again. If we did that, you would have a SWAT team and whatever. But that's because they're afraid of us. They're not afraid of these people. And that's because they're harmless for the most part, until you get a Tyler Robinson or some maniac or somebody who just, shoots somebody or stabs somebody, or like they are out there. And as we've seen, and we mentioned earlier, there's Zegarak, there's other people. Left-wing radicals are worse, and they're more dangerous because they feel justified in what they're doing because of decades of people in the media telling them that they're fighting Hitler and they're saving the world from evil or something. So they feel like they're the main character in a Marvel movie and they have to stop Charlie Kirk, or they have to go to Montreal and shoot a bunch of people in the name of Leninist Marxism, which I like that story went away. This crazy lunatics manifesto shot those cops in Winnipeg. He was a radical left-wing Marxist. But that's not really part of what we want to tell people. So we're just going to skip over that. If he had a manifesto filled with swastikas, we would still be talking about it. So it's not about safety, right, wrong. It's about you and me and getting rid of us because they hate us. They hate the animating spirit that we follow, that they're at war with. And it depends on what your interpretation is. I'm not going to say anybody's right or wrong, but God, nature, if you're a pagan, it doesn't matter. There is a sort of quantifiable, or at least an area where you can say this is on one side and that's on the other. Pro-life, pro-creativity, build things, maintain, honor the past, and appreciate that. Be proud of yourselves and take it. No, that's all evil. We must destroy that. We got to tear down, cancel, erase, burn, shoot, kill, burn. That's their side. So it's one or the other. You're following one animating spirit or the other, and the more the things diverge, the more that's become very clear to me. And that's more, as an example, on their side, you can have people who have simultaneous opinions and positions who are wildly contradictory to one another, that don't make any sense, but they're willing to suspend belief and not care. It's more about you don't like it. They'll adopt this position against XYZ because you like XYZ. You like the Ryerson name and statue, so they hate it. It has nothing to do with what they don't know anything about the guy. They don't care. It's you they don't like. So anything that you like, or anything you like, beautiful things or healthy, or they're going to campaign against it. They'll find a way to destroy it and go after it. It's the spiteful mutant theory again. It tracks. Whatever the situation is, I always come down to is this an anti-life anti-life force motivated spirit? And 99 times out of 98, it is.
Yeah, I've been trying to really get into words or summarize this sort of phenomena that we're up against, this sort of like I call it like the false moral authority that we've been under since Trudeau, which is like, being racist is the worst thing ever. Saying something that offends a woman, that offends a gay person is the worst thing ever. And, I was talking to Frances Widdowson last night. We were kind of hashing out the details of like why she wasn't allowed to go back to work. And it came down to one individual feeling uncomfortable. That's why she can't come back to university and teach a fucking lecture, is because, the feeling and I can't have the person around me. And, I think it's because people like us there's just so much power whenever we have these thoughts, and people like have seizures and they fall into comas just because of the hateful thoughts that go in our head. I'm kidding, of course, but, just like that we have to baby these people is the sort of expectation now, and the government's now going to enforce all of this.
Mm-hmm. And they're very weak, and they're not going to succeed. It's going to it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, but you can clearly see it eroding. Like Trudeau's entire government committed suicide with the EMA. That it was the end of his career. It took a little while for the kill shot to, for him to bleed out, his career metaphor, but that's what happened. He may be back someday. I wouldn't rule that out. In 5 years, he could make it come back, because his father did. That may happen, but it takes time. But they're not. This is not a formidable opponent in the way that their spirit is an unyielding force of nature that will do whatever it takes and stop at nothing. This is a child throwing a temper tantrum that's used to getting its way all the time, and again, further erodes its own credibility and power every time that it exercises it in an abusive way. So. And conversely, our side are people who have little to no resources, have no backup and no support from the state or media or anyone. You're fighting against all of these things on your own as an individual, and continue, and only getting stronger and more resilient and more resourceful as time goes on, and networking and building all these things together. So this isn't shaping up to go their way at all. And they can't even handle, oh, I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable all the time. I'm uncomfortable driving. I don't like to drive. I really don't like to drive. Probably because at a young age, 20, 21, that was a very dangerous activity, and people frequently blew up and died in Afghanistan on the roads and so on. And they're not safe now either. It's just part of it. Every time you see an 18-wheeler on the road, I passed one on the way home with my kids in the vehicle, and the guy's got two phones in either hand doing this, driving. He's not even looking at the road. Like, yeah, that makes me very uncomfortable, but what do you want me to do? That's life. If I'm out swimming in the ocean and, a shark, I'm uncomfortable. Well, what do you want us to do about that? There's a million things to be uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable is not fear of your life. I saw, I think it might have been in the Canadian House of Commons, but I can't remember. I feel unsafe because people were making her look dumb and saying that's not true. I feel unsafe. You're not unsafe. You're just uncomfortable. Or you have anxiety because you've made to feel stupid. That you've labeled these feelings entirely. That's like saying, I have some indigestion. No, I'm on fire. I'm physically engulfed in flames because my stomach hurts. Well, no, you're not. You just ate too much pizza. Okay, it's not. You don't need an ambulance. It's crazy. These people are out of their minds, and they're just. Our world and society is meant to be. It's like a complicated machine, like an aircraft, a helicopter, an airplane. There's a certain amount of training and experience you need to operate this effectively. Like the government, society, and all of our systems, infrastructure that exist, and you can't just put someone in there who's just pushing buttons and doing whatever. Oh, well, they check all the diversity boxes, so therefore they can be a pilot. It's going to go badly eventually. Even if they're halfway okay at what they do, it's not good enough. And we've restaffed our institutions, our military, our healthcare system, our education system, our judiciary, our Senate, or like anything of any consequence, with people who prioritize feelings and being uncomfortable. I mean, I had 5 court cases simultaneously, and I don't know how many times I heard the words "I feel" and how I feel and how it makes me feel. And these weren't coming from witnesses. This was coming from attorneys and prosecutors and judges. How they were feeling. I thought, can we talk about the law at any point? Or is it just going to be a bunch of women talking about and it was. Again, I'm not necessarily that it's women's fault, but it was 80-90% women and all involved, and they all clucked around about their feelings all day long. And my lawyer looked at his watch and waited for them to be done and go, okay, yeah, but that's the law and you're stupid. You waste everyone's time, and they got thrown out, and then they go, it's the feds. And what can you do? But it's a mess.
Yeah, no, and that's what it is. It's the feelings thing. And there were so many great examples of that watching C-9 in the Senate, especially. This was almost like an opportunity for the different, pet issues to kind of have their kick at the can of trying to protect people's feelings. You had the indigenous lobby, who's like, we want to also criminalize residential school denialism. That got rejected. but then this black senator, this black woman, was like, I'm offended by the noose, and we need to make the image of a noose illegal. And they're like, okay, I like that one. Sure, we'll protect those feelings. So that's displaying the noose in a like whatever evil, intense way that incites hatred. That's now illegal come Saturday, which is wild. And again, it's like, why the noose? Oh, because something to do with history and black people and feelings and feelings and feelings. And it's like, again, you should have a therapist to talk about this stuff. Okay.
I think that the noose is fearful to them because it represents something. Like they're operating on instinct and emotions entirely, just emotions. And what the noose means is justice. That's where it comes from. Has it been misapplied? Have people been murdered and lynched? And so, yeah, of course. But for a very long time, the hangman was for criminals. It was for murderers and rapists and thieves and so on. And we would hang those people in public to death. And the noose was it was a symbol of, again, it has been misapplied. Of course it has been. But overall, it was a consequences that that if you are a bad person, you will pay. There's a good chance that if we catch you, it's not going to be, oh, well, try better next time. It's going to be a very permanent solution. And I think that instinctively rattles the feathers of a lot of these people because they themselves know that they're, my French, a piece of shit. And they know that. And they know deep down that they don't ever want to see anything like a return to morality or consequences or, firm application of justice because they might be the ones affected by it. It's the same reason you don't see the government in our country or America or anywhere really leading the charge on the biggest issue politically, one of the biggest ones of the day, if you want to get elected. Let's put these Epstein people in jail. Let's find these pedophiles in our government and our institutions and let's destroy them and get rid of them. They don't want to do that. Why? Because they themselves would be implicated in a lot of these crimes and they're not going to jail or hang themselves. So, that's part of the reason. I think that's really why. I don't think when has anyone ever been lynched in Canada? Is there even a single case? Like, is there a famous story of that? I mean, we hung Louis Riel, I think. Was that one of the last kind of high profile guys?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know enough about our history to answer that question. If there is a history of lynchings anywhere,
don't think so.
I think of you as a pretty empathetic guy, despite what CBC might say about you, and you have an active imagination. I'm curious if you've ever imagined what it's like to be somebody like these scummy MPs that I think they're vampires, like Mark Miller. Like, imagine living with like the guilt or the shame of like the corruption that you're enabling and pushing forth with your with your schemes and with your constant lying on the microphone, like in Parliament, in the parliamentary hearings, pushing this legislation, which you know is bullshit. Like, can you imagine living with like the guilt? Because like, I almost like get joyful and have a light spirit thinking like, wait a minute, this is horrible for us, but you guys have to live with yourselves. You have to live with yourself. You have to like live many more years and then die knowing that this is what you did with your power. Like, I don't envy you at all, Mark Miller or whoever. Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, I have, and it's not because of, I do have a very good imagination. I've always been, empathetic in the sense that I like to try, it's just who I am. I like to try to get into someone's head as just to explore and just I'm a curious person. Humans are curious, and that's, some people like to explore mountains. I like to explore minds and personalities and people, and sometimes I'd like to try to think of what makes somebody tick and why they're like this or that or so on. But in that case,
Jeremy is a psychic and a remote viewer for those curious.
That's true. I do. Don't say that. They'll come after me. I'm not supposed to be. That's a joke. Don't government. They're going to know. You can see things. Get rid of them. Nope. It's a joke. It's a funny joke. But I don't need to, imagine too much because it's just, it's human nature and we have choices to make. And there was a time when I was not a great person. I was much younger, but I know what it's like to lie and live in a lie and defend the lie and that sort of thing. And it's more of, there is some guilt, but in order for this to work, and not destroy yourself, if you have a soul. A lot of these people are, by the way, sociopaths and psychopaths, and they don't feel anything. That's why they're in those positions. It attracts them in the first place. So many of them just literally don't care. They're just pretending and they're putting on a fake face. But the ones that are human have at one point or another decided they were weak and they succumbed to some sort of pressure or compromising situation, did something they shouldn't have, whatever. And the deeper and this is, again, from experience, the deeper you sink into these negative paths, the harder, more painful it is to pull yourself out again. It's like you fell down a cliffside covered in thorns and rocks and broken glass, and the only way to get out is to climb back up the way you fell down. And the further you fall, the worse it gets. And then you go, fuck, I don't want to do that. And for the same reason that guys don't want to quit things in the military, like a difficult job or something. So what happens is they create a reason, a narrative, or a story of why it's justified, why they had to do it this way, why this has to be the reason. I had to quit because my foot hurts and my whatever. And it's like, you didn't. You just you're telling yourself that. It's because that's a world you can live with. And in this position with these politicians, a lot of these people, they believe that they're Sean Fraser will stand there and be like, we're saving people and we're blah, 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 blah. whatever, buddy. It's whatever you got to tell yourself.
Whatever you got to tell yourself. Yeah.
Which is exactly what they do. They will lean on things like it's like when people argue, with us. I've seen it all. I've seen it all at this point. I saw this thing. They don't want to listen to a word I have to say. They'll just reference a CBC article or something somewhere. And they go, there, see, done, and that preserves their delusion that they live in. I went to the anti-Jeremy rally that they had here in Dartmouth, Morgan. If you went down, if you remember, and we walked right up to the front of their stage. I said, "Hi, everybody!" They freaked out, and probably 7 or 8 different people were screaming at me and Morgan and so on, and they were all mad at me about things that weren't even real, that weren't even true. They didn't know anything of it, but as alluded to earlier, they just know that they hate me. Like, he's just bad. And like, well, you love Trump. What are you talking about? Well, you love Pierre Poilievre. I do. I love Pierre Poilievre. This is news to me. And it just went on. Eventually, they go, well, the hell with you anyway. You're evil. I'm like, okay, so you don't even really know what you're mad about. And it's too difficult to do. I'm just going to rearrange the Jenga tower pieces of reality to a version that I can live with, and that I don't have to do any work or climb up the steep hill with the thorns and the glass, because that sucks. I don't want to do that. I have done that, and it does suck, but it is what you're supposed to do. And when you get to the top, you're a much stronger, more capable person with some credibility, because you can tell people, men, women, whoever, and say, you don't want to go that way. Why? Because you see this massive scar? I got that going that way, near killed me. Don't do that. It's better than somebody just, and I'm not, don't go out and do terrible things so you have the credibility and experience to then tell people not to. But, it does. I think certain people have to, for whatever reason, for their internal development. It's just, that's the way your life was always meant to go, for whatever reason. And I think God and the universe gives you opportunities to do that. And we have a choice Mark Miller tomorrow can wake up tomorrow and go, I'm not doing this anymore. He could choose to be a hero for himself. He could look at himself in the mirror and say, I'm not going to be this guy anymore. I know what I'm doing, and I won't do it. I refuse to do it. And starting tomorrow, I'm going to start. It's going to be a monstrous, no one's going to believe me. My life is going to be awful for the next 5 years as I try to maybe climb my way out of this pit that I've dug myself. But that's the price I have to pay. That's because I know what I did, and I know I have to pay it. You cannot just and be out there. Trust me, it will find a way to make you pay. And you just say, accept your lashings. I did what I did, and it may come in a different way. You may be punished for something. They'll say it's for a different reason entirely, but you know what you did. Why your life has transpired this way, or why this has happened to you, or why you're in jail, or why whatever. What you and God know what the real is. And you have to make a decision every day. You decide who you want to be and what you want to do. And they're just choosing to continue. It's the easy way, the comfortable way, the convenient way. We've lost our sense of discipline and doing the right thing, which is something we always used to be known for. And it's just become too easy. I mean, look, people go to the Walmart in their pajamas. People don't. I mean, this is an older sort of thing, especially younger people are noticing now. They're looking at videos from the 30s and 40s and 50s, and they're just like, can't believe that this was here. Like, what look how everyone's dressed, and look how clean everything is. And well, people used to care a lot more about themselves, and they had some dignity, and it wasn't a vanity thing. It's, I'm presenting myself as well as possible for everyone else. They don't have to look at a mess of a human being. And hopefully they'll treat me appropriately, because I have respect myself, obviously. I have self-respect, and that's going to command respect from other people. Nobody's going to respect a dumpster body of a person who just smells like booze and is just ripped pants, and you covered in where's the new Call of Duty game? You're in the way as your entire life is just in the way of everyone else. That didn't used to be. We used to be a lot more. We used to care in these matter of these things. Your spirit matters, and how you treat yourself and view yourself is important, and that's been eroded tremendously. That's a huge part of the problem, and that's something that nationalism can fix and does fix. And offers people it's much more of a spiritual thing than it is political as an ideology. I don't really. I mean, I'm political, I guess, but it's not a thesis. I don't have a manifesto of here's my 25-point plan and all this kind of stuff. It all is stemming from the spirit of things, which is, this is wrong and that's wrong, and I don't like that. And all the political things are just, again, it's a symptom, and it's a part of the product of the engine that's driving everything.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There is a huge spiritual element to what's going on because, like, I try to stay on top of the news of what's going on, the bills, and like it's every day outrageous, what the politicians are saying, what they're pushing, what they're focusing on, and I get distracted because I look at these people like an image like this, and I look in his eyes, and I'm like, what's going on, man? Like, what happened? What have you been possessed by that you're doing this? Why are you doing this? And instead of focusing on the details and try to report, I just kind of go into this like spiral of like, thinking how does this person operate? What's wrong with them? And like you said, it really does come down to some sort of like spiritual thing where it's like, what is their value system? How do they view themselves and the world? And, across the board, you look at all these different issues, all this different corruption, all these different kind of like shortcomings, whether it's in the corporate world, whether it's in the bureaucratic world. There's no cohesion of the country. There's no respect. There's no honor for the country. Everybody's out for themselves. Like this is what rationalizes all of these decisions. People think, oh, well, there is no kind of national unity. There is no sort of like larger family that I'm taking care of or that I should be serving. So I'm just going to look out for myself. I'm just going to look out for my own pension. I'm just going to look out for my own financial incentives and screw everything else. And this is really why everything is going to shit. And it can't really be explained by just a policy or just a sort of like even a, free speech value. It's lacking the core, it's lacking the roots. And it really does come down to sort of a familial connection with the actual nation itself. And I think you're right. Nationalism and the way I view it is like we need to start respecting ourselves again and actually like believing in ourselves as an actual nation. Like we can't have anything. We can't build anything unless we start with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the individual is the smallest piece of the tree, the maple tree, And this is why I've chosen sort of instinctively at first. It just felt, I didn't really think about it too much, but more over the years, I've thought about it more and more. The place to fight these people is not, there's lots of places to fight them. And I think we should fight them everywhere for every inch of everything all the time, because again, it's just part of the discipline. They don't let them have anything easy for free. But the main battlefield and the main space of where this fight is happening, where is the main event in the ring?
Peaceful, civil fighting.
But it's in the spirit world. It's the spiritual world, because in a place like that, only you and God know what you've done and what your life is and what it's not, and the state of your own soul and the health of your own spirit and all these sorts of things. But we're all subjected to that. There is no man or woman who is above and beyond that. We are all an equal in that place. And that is where the problem is. The problem exists the political problem, the economic problem, yes, but those are downstream from the spiritual problem. That's where the main fight is. So fight them there. And you fight them there by taking control of yourself and in removing their influence from you. And that looks like, maybe you might have to do uncomfortable things or things you don't want to do. You may have to risk, incurring some difficulties with, we've seen all the things that happen through COVID. There's all sorts of situations you'll be put in. Doing the right thing is always hard. I've never seen it to be easy. It's either kind of, inconvenient all the way up to you might die or you will die and nothing less. The right thing to do is like, just give the guy $200. And like, can I really spend? It's not the end of the world. Just do it. But that's the minimum level of doing the right thing. And it just gets worse from there. So these people who can say, oh, I'm a really good person. Yeah, why? Oh, I don't know. I just am. You don't know. You have to build it. You have to go and earn it. You have to do things, and you have to put yourself through these trials and situations where it's going to take something from you internally and externally, physically, mentally, maybe all of them. And on the other side of that is wisdom and experience, and you sort of level up as a person, and you'll start to see and start to understand things better. And that's really the path to freeing ourselves of this, because they've got us wrapped in this world of consumerist nonsense and bullshit and obedience. And we'll get a Tim Hortons and an Austin Matthews jersey, and we're doing this is just things. This isn't anything. This is all going to be. It's here today, gone tomorrow. What's the point? Our life, the reason we're all here as, Canadians, Americans, or whoever, is to buy things and stuff and hoard it in wherever if you can afford a home, like some sort of troll or dragon. I'm going to get a mountain of coins to sit on and say, look at all the coins I've got, and then die. That is ridiculous. And that is insulting to life itself. And to me, I believe that the soul and the essence of you, what you are not your body. This is just what you're using, like a car or a vehicle to navigate this. You are beyond this. And when you die, you're still here. You're going to go somewhere else and do something else. But that's long, much. Is it permanent? I don't know, but it goes beyond this world. So that should be the main event. That's really what you're here to do, is to nurture that, protect that, grow that, and strengthen that. Anything else is just a waste of time, because all this is, what's the point? Because it's just going to go to dust anyway. I mean, if you want to live as a nihilist, it's, kind of depressing and pointless, but this way, it's directly in opposition to everything they want to do. They want to stifle human freedom and creativity. They want to punish you for loving your own people and yourself and your, humanity and things that are true and just. I mean, why don't they just outlaw asking about Epstein? I mean, this is kind of how they started talking about it. Like, you're crazy for even to bring it up when it's like the biggest scandal in history and a huge, obviously a massive problem. Their spirit is the one of death and ruin and treachery and deception and corruption and money and stuff and things. And it goes to terrible places. And its main opponent is destroying their spirit, which, aims to go in the opposite direction. So that's where the real fight is. And I think at the very base level, you strip away everything else. I don't care what your political ideology is, what you call yourself, what party you vote for, what color tie you're wearing. This is all just, doesn't mean anything. Strip this all away, all this physical crap. What are you? Who do you follow? Who do you obey? What have you given yourself to? Are you going to the side of life and nature and what's right? Or are you going for money, stuff, and things, and I'll step on people's head if it gets me a bigger car? Pick. And the thing is, this way is way harder to do. And that's why less people do it.
Yeah. I don't know, Jeremy. I think my purpose is to work and dedicate all of my waking hours to a mega corporation and help their shareholders. I think that's probably the best thing to do. And then I can buy more plastic stuff and go on more vacations and things like this. That's
dividends are nice. We all love video games. There's lots of things to do. Lots of,
But I'm going to go over some super chats, and I wanted to go over a few more things. Could we get 15 more minutes of your time? Is that possible?
Oh, yeah. I've got lots of time.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to go over a few super chats. $10 from Lone Wolf, 1749. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the super chat, Lone Wolf. $5 from Dulcet Peaks. I'm Gen Z and enjoy your guys' content. Awesome. Love to hear it. There's only so many dissidents in Canada here, so...
there is enough. You just got to collect them all, like Pokemon.
True. And then a big $50 for Silverman and Buddy. Thank you, sir. It should be mandatory for all young people to serve in the military before entering into any kind of higher learning institution. Also, if you come to this country for the freedom, it offers same expectations. Apply, earn what is given. All right. But what did I want to get into with you? I wanted to ask about... man, just kind of like in general, how you're doing this thing. You're the president of Second Sons now. You've gone through all these different criminal charges. You used to be in the military. You're a combat veteran. And if you just kind of like look at when you first started streaming now, or what went viral recently was your clip at what university is that? Dalhousie University out.
Yeah.
You're one of your first original viral rants.
Yeah.
My military friends can't be here anymore because they're dead, and now apparently we're celebrating, this freaking terrorist who built bombs that killed American soldiers. Anyway, I don't know, because sometimes I think of like what I do now, and I'm like, I never really wanted to do this. I don't know how I really got here.
Yeah.
Did you relate to that?
Yeah. And it's again, it's overwhelming. I think people, just advice for anybody who's listening who may associate with this or take some sort of, me too, kind of thing, whatever it is you're doing. It's overwhelming. And if you try to look at the whole monstrous obstacle as it's, this is what has to be defeated and dealt with. And I don't do that. That's how do you climb a mountain? You do it one step at a time. You don't worry about that. You just, which way is north, and just go that way. You're one person. We're all just, and we're not billionaires. We don't own massive private military companies or satellite launching a bit. Like, we don't have the means to make tremendous impact. You can do whatever you can do, and you know what that is. That's the other thing. You can ask anybody, and they'll, oh, yes, you do. You lay awake at night, and you sit in your car, and you do the same things the rest of us do. I should be doing this, or I shouldn't be doing that. You know what those things are. Do those things. That's what you're here to do. Don't worry about these greater, bigger things. And the more you do them, the more things will open up for you to do. And in that instance, I wasn't thinking, I need a viral video and I need to do this, I need to do that. I had been talking all kinds of shit about Omar Khadr and that deal. I don't know him personally. I don't care to. It doesn't matter. But it was the way the government was treating that situation. And the people of Canada, particularly Halifax, were like, oh, what a wonderful young man. When our guys, friends of mine, roommates who I, lived with for years, and like one of the guys, Christopher Stanix, drove me home every weekend. We would drive home together a number of times. And he was killed by those guys, the Taliban, who Omar Khadr was working for while he was there. And we've completely lost sight of things if that's happening. So I happen to be talking about that, and he's doing a tour, and it just so happens he's doing a speaking event. And I thought, oh, wow, is he where? Oh, where you live. 10 minutes away from where you live. You can get on a car, you get in a car or get across on the ferry named after Stanix, the Christopher Paul Stanix. There, we named a boat after him. Done, I guess. Okie dokie. You could have taken that to get there. So that felt like a call out from the universe to see, like, well, let's see what you got. Let's see what you're made of. Do you care that much? Come over here and do something about it then. It was kind of on the nose. I felt personally attacked. I felt like the universe he could have went to, he lives in Edmonton, I believe. So what's he doing in Halifax? I don't know. But I couldn't, I'm not worried about any of those things. I just said, I'm saying something. I don't care. I'm going to go there. I'm going to put my medals on, and I'm going to do what I think needs to be done. I think the dignity and honor of the Canadian forces and our men need to be defended. I think this needs to be called out for what it is. I think there needs to be more to this conversation that is being said, and a lot is being omitted, and it's not right, and it's not okay. So I'm going to go do something about it and not think about it past that. And then when it's over the next day, there's other things to do. And it just, again, don't think ahead so much. Don't think about it too much. Just, what can you do? What's within range? What's within reach of you right now, today, tomorrow, this week, and deal with that. This month, deal with that. Don't try to do these immense, huge things, because it's going to overwhelm you, and you're going to, beat yourself with the process. Like if you're trying to do anything, you want to start a company, or you want to, train for a fight, you want to do it. I got to run a marathon. I got to do all these things and all these miles I got to run and all that. No, you need to buy a pair of shoes today. Then you need to go find a place to run. Like there's, bite-sized, smaller objectives, and just go and find a way to make it meaningful. That's another thing. It's not just, you're not just flailing. And this is something I'm really going to try to impart to people once I get back to my own podcast here soon. And thank you guys for waiting. I'm sorry, but it's been very busy. We just had nationals out west in Calgary with the club, and I'm working on rebooting a bunch of things. But the whole social media doom loop, it has a purpose, and people got addicted to it. But if you don't know anything about what's going on, it's an overwhelming amount of information. There's all sorts of things to see and learn there. It might all be very new to you. But eventually, it's just the same thing. I mean, I felt like I was beating a dead horse for the last 2 years. And I'm just like, this is nothing new. And you're not going to get anywhere. The purpose is to be kind of alerted to, like, oh, there is a push and pull sort of battle happening here. And then find who those people are that you align with, and then set about doing something about it.
And not even any sorry, what was your last comment there?
Is it not just endlessly entertaining yourself? Because it may not feel like entertainment, but that's why you're doing it. Like, then stop, put the phone down.
It's somehow the conspiracies have become the bread and circuses. And the thing is, even if it is new information, even if you're constantly learning new information, it's like, how much more true information do you need to know about the despair and the corruption and, the insidious evil nature of things? Like, you can keep learning more and more and more and more and more and more every day. And, I forget who said this one, but it's like, when you stare into the abyss stares back at you. How much more truth do you need to know before you're going to do something to, materially or spiritually improve your personal life? And I mean, this is another funny thing, talking about like how far we've come, or like where we've come from in our little political journey here. For those who don't know, Jeremy and I first connected 2019 on a podcast, on a Plaid Army podcast. I think I was even before it was called Plaid Army, but for the election. And back then, conspiracies were this newer well, for me anyway, this, like, getting into them was this newer thing. And it's how fun.
Greg, I scared the hell out of you Tell the truth.
Absolutely. I was like, yo, you guys are talking about Jewish stuff. I'm not comfortable with that. That's pretty well what happened. But 7 years later, isn't it funny though? 7 years later, because like back then it was like, man, if only people know more about these conspiracies going on. And now it's kind of like, whoa, I'm like counter signaling conspiracies. I'm like, you guys are getting too into this. Like we actually need to look at like solutions more and not like just kind of freak out all day. I'm like, oh my God, this conspiracy, that conspiracy. Like, don't you think it's crazy that like now in 2026, we're almost like counter signaling the conspiracy stuff? How does that make you feel?
I feel like that's, again, it's a maturation process. I don't think it ever ends, but I think that's like earlier in the development, like a little chickadee or something, right? And the whole point of the conspiracy theory investigation, in my opinion, is people who instinctively understand something is not right. This is not, I mean, they're telling me how it is, but things don't make sense. And what is that in the sky? And who's that? There's just a lot of strangeness going on. So it's an attempt to kind of unravel and unwrap that and figure out what it is that's going on. And again, long story short, I call it the claw, for lack of a better term, but there's a monster. There is I could get really metaphysical about it, but there's groups of people and a specific group of people at the very top who are following and obeying an animating spirit of their own that may or may not literally exist in some place that they have contact with. Maybe it's the devil. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But that's the real main event and problem here. And it all comes back to that. You could have whatever thread you want to pull. If it's the war stuff, which was what got me initially, it could be the pharmaceutical industry stuff or COVID, which a lot of people. It could be the free speech thing. It could be the mass migration thing. It could be the banking fiat currency situation. There's all sorts of different terrible things happening that are enslaving and hurting a lot of people. But when you really pull that thread and you go where it takes you, they all come back to the same sort of area, the same sort of place, Mordor, if you will. And, oh, look, there's a massive monster that lives here. How did you get here? Well, we all came here to the same place, and there's a huge monster. Okay. Once you've agreed and accept, there is a monster and there it is. A lot of people stay there and they just complain about it. Look what it's doing now. And now it ate that person. And now it's over there stepping on that city. Oh, did you see the monster today? I'm very aware of the monster. It tried to eat me on more than one occasion. I'm very aware of it. But it's once you're there, like you need to keep going. It's not, just because you've identified it and acknowledged it isn't, that's not going to make it disappear in like reverse Beetlejuice fashion where it goes, I've been found, and it's going to evaporate because people know it exists. Then you have to go, okay, well, what do we do? And move on from there. But, some people have a job and a profession out of that. They are entertainers, they have made a life out of that, out of just telling people what's going on. And if they're any good at it, and if they're fairly on point and grounded and reasonable and not too out of control I think they're doing a public service, because there are a lot of things out there that are crazy. One of the more disturbing things I've ever heard was a CIA guy say, somebody asked him, well, how many conspiracies out there are true? And he said about half of them. Now I was like, that's crazy, because that means half the things that I think are true are not true, and half the things I think aren't true are true, more or less. So that's crazy. So it's good that people are out there trying to parse that and, at least send people off in the right direction. But that's like a job. It's like you're a fireman or you're a taxi driver or something. It's not the be all end all. And that's what they've chosen to do. Some people enjoy it and love it, and that's what they do. Like the Alex Jones thing, good for you, whatever. But other people are like, that was a stage or a process or a place or a thing that I needed to then move on to do something else and go somewhere else. And again, we can't, it's not just going to destroy itself or fight itself or erase itself. We have to fight for our own dignity and find ways creatively to do that.
No, I like that. It'd be interesting to map this out on like the red pill journey more kind of objectively. It's like, oh, this is first when you realize that a news source that you trusted was now not telling the truth. Then you become a libertarian. Then you go into this conspiracy. Then this one. Then you become this. Then you become a nationalist. Just like mapping it all out. But speaking of conspiracies, I heard an interesting theory related to C-9, and we'll kind of talk about this. This will probably be our last topic.
Sure.
But the person I was speaking to said, you know what I think is going to happen? I think the first person who's going to be publicly charged with C-9 is going to be a conservative party gatekeeper, or like in that sort of environment, like, you know, someone who Ezra Levant from Rebel News knows, and then they're going to create the monopoly, or sort of the, you know, they'll get the kind of first kick at the can at the defining what this bill is and like what this law means, and, you know, how unjust it is or whatever. I thought that was an interesting theory, and especially because like I hate to even talk about this because it makes me feel disgusting. But I'm coming to the point where I'm thinking, I think some of these freedom lawyers are actually just rubbing their hands together with the thought of C-9, because, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be great to have a client who's some dissident with an audience who's just going to keep pumping money into my pocket because they have to do this bullshit, ridiculous fight with a Crown prosecutor about how what they said hateful or not hateful, and I need to give you tens of thousands of dollars now so I don't get thrown in jail. This is a business opportunity if you're a lawyer.
And that's how lawyers operate. Unfortunately, that's most lawyers. I've gone through a lot of them, and it's not impressive. It's not a nice field of people. Generally, they're scum in a lot of cases and don't care. They got into it because it makes money and all that sort of thing. Not all of them, of course. I mean, there's some that are good people, and you know, the ones I deal with, like obviously, but that is 100% true. They'll tell you, oh yeah, it's a job for them. Whether you win, lose, don't care. They're not going to jail. They don't. What does it matter? It's something for them to do. They either feel like taking it because the money's good, or maybe they want to go to that town because they're cheating on their wife anyway, and that's a fun place. Who knows what it is? But I'd be very careful with that, because a lot of them will take your money and just, you know, do a piss poor job, not know what they're. I've had people take 10 grand from me and do the absolute work, like no work. Like you rolled out of bed, out of your car, or you slept in the parking lot, showed up and just winged it. You should be put in jail for that, just for gross negligence and just failure to even pretend to do a good job. It's insane. But you know, I don't know if it's a conspiracy. I mean, they're going to do it. They want to shut people up. They cannot resist the urge to punish people and accrue power and feel like they can control things, which you inherently can't do. That's what they'll never learn and understand. You cannot control people and control their thoughts and control their emotions and control that. You can influence them and you can try to lead them and show them the way, but that has to be done through respect. They have to earn their respect and earn their love and their commitment. And you do that, unfortunately, the way that no politician or no so-called leader in this country wants to do, by bleeding for them and suffering for them and proving to them that you care. There's an old story that I heard about recently, or read about, and it was, I think it's a Chinese story. I can't remember where it came from. It's something from somewhere, but it's a story about how there's a bunch of guys and they need to choose a leader. Maybe they're on an island somewhere surrounded by man-eating monkeys or something. I don't know. And, you know, there's this guy says, well, I'm the smartest and I know all of these, you know, sciencey things. I'm a physicist and whatever. And I'm like, okay. And there's this guy's like, well, I'm the oldest and the wisest and all that sort of thing. And this guy, well, I'm the strongest. Okay. And then one guy, you know, cuts his hand and, you know, just prove I'm going to believe. And then another guy just cuts his own hand off entirely. And it shocks everyone so much. That's what he's willing to do, just to prove that that's how far he's willing to go. Everyone will follow that guy because the will of that person is that extreme that, you know, that person will die before they give up. And they're willing to go to those lengths to prove to those people that that's, you know, who they are. That's the leader, regardless of what you think of the other people. That's the actual spiritual leader of those people. No, we don't have one of those. We have businessmen. We have bankers and businessmen and lawyers. We don't have leaders. Mark Carney's not a leader. Pierre Poilievre is not a leader. None of those people are leaders. They don't do any leaderly things. They don't suffer and sacrifice and bleed and show up. They weren't out there on the line in the convoy getting, you know, hit in the head with anything. They're taking money from you and giving themselves pay raises. They're not spending any money. They're not going out of their way to get into fights and they don't do any of that stuff. We don't have any of those people. So we're a leaderless people. We're a lost people that have lost their sense of identity of themselves, where they belong, what they should be doing, where they came from. None of these so-called leaders can even tell you what a Canadian is. They don't know. They'll say Tim Hortons and Trailer Park Boys or something and call it a day and give us more money. I need to put in a bike lane so I can get, you know, more money from my constituents or whatever, from China or somebody. It's ridiculous. So, you know, that's a huge part of the problem. And until that, you know, changes, we're going to be in this situation. But that is what will happen. These people will emerge eventually, and they're happening. It's happening around the world, in other countries, and there are people and figures and movements and groups that show up that are willing to take risks and are willing to endure hardships and are willing to get in fights and get ribs and noses broken, and not because they want to, but because they understand and accept that is the price of it. Climbing up that hill is not easy to do. And if it were, everyone would do it. And nobody wants. They just want to be up there. They want to have the cake and eat it too. Just ferry me up there with a jetpack and drop me off and say, there, I'm. They didn't want to earn it. And that's what we have. We have a bunch of like frat boy type fools who didn't earn anything. They just showed up and said, put me in charge because it's my turn. It's my turn. That's not how this works. And that's why nobody respects them and no one cares and no one is interested in anything that they have to say. And they will eventually be overtaken and replaced by actual leaders of their people, because it will just, their spirit is about this big, in comparison. And that's why they won't share a stage, or they will never be seen caught dead. I tried to get Aaron O'Toole into a debate, you might remember, because he's obsessed with me and Morgan and just was going on and on for days on Twitter. And I said, oh, you're so obsessed with me, Aaron, let's just do this. And I was like, $20,000, $25,000, I said, for any charity of your choice, no strings attached, just show up for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And he wouldn't do it. He's the former leader of the Conservative Party and was on the running to be the prime minister, leader of this nation, but dealing with, just some shithead on Twitter is like, oh, this should be easy work for you. And I'm, such a loathed figure in Canadian, especially right-wing politics. I mean, man, conservative fanboys really don't like me. Be a hero, Aaron. Do the job that everyone's afraid to do and just get rid of me. Just show everyone how stupid I am and show everyone how much of an idiot and a fool that I am, and prove that you're, a much more capable and competent leader of this country, and collect $25,000 for a charity at Christmas time. What is there to lose? He wouldn't do it. And I knew he wouldn't do it. It's because I know what he is. He's a worm.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, the conservative establishment in this country, especially right now, I'm hoping it's like an all-time low, because it is so pathetic. We have Jason Kenney, former premier, now like ashamed, or what's the word, disgraced premier of Alberta. You have him on Twitter trying to disavow like Dominion Society and call Daniel Tyree racist. It's like, you used to lead the country, and now you're like, you're a reply guy trying to call an actual nationalist a racist. And then you have former leader of the Conservative Party, Aaron O'Toole, messing with you on Twitter. And it's like, it's pathetic on a whole other level. It's like you guys could have been the potential prime minister of the country, and now here you are, like, roughing it up with us. Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to bring up the Carney thing, and the current administration. And this is a lot of things. This is something that I think a lot of right-wing people who are stuck in the kind of Conservative Party sphere, gatekeeping sphere, don't realize. Like, Carney's actually doing a really good job at fucking us. And you kind of actually need to respect that. Like, he has been so effective at stealing your MPs, first of all, and, pushing through these laws. He's chopped it up into a bunch of different pieces. He's made it more confusing, and he's being successfully kind of like shooting it through. And all I really see is people complaining and whining. And it's like, when is some of this energy going to look towards improving your actual own ship, improving your actual own team? Because it is absolutely atrocious right now. Day after day, I am seeing the same recycled talking points from Pierre Poilievre. It has not changed one little bit for 4 fucking years, man. It's not fucking working. I saw this like recent podcast clip where he's talking about housing, and he's like, we need to just build more homes. And it's like, are you still not going to talk about immigration, bro? Still, after all of this?
It's kind of sad. And again, I'm a huge boxing fight fan. I've always, loved it. And I've really, the last 2 years, because I'm trying to, it's just as a hobby and aside. And if anybody's looking for some sort of exercise, or I've done a lot of things, that is the most difficult, demanding, mentally, physically sport that there is. I don't care what anybody says. That's the king.
Boxing's the top.
Oh yeah. It's outrageously hard. Or any like kickboxing, fighting in general is just beyond exhausting. It's insane. Right. It's the most demanding. So it's, it's amazing. Anyway, it's like watching somebody who's just already beaten, and they just are too dumb to realize they're just keep doing the same things and keep getting smashed and just beat up all over the ring. And they're like, I'm doing really good. And everyone's like, oh my God, just end it already. Like, in a moment, because the referee does eventually do that in boxing. We don't have one of those in real life that can just go, all right, Pierre, that's it. You're done. Like, nobody wants to see this anymore. This is just embarrassing for you, for me, for everybody. Like, it's like our baseball game where it's like, oh, the Jays are down by 74 runs in the 8th inning. It's like, can we just go home? Like, there's no point in continuing. So he's just, I'm going to keep doing the same lazy jab and getting clocked over and over. And housing. It's bananas to me, and I don't know if they're losing on purpose. I honestly don't know. I used to think, I don't think very much of them. I don't know who's in charge over there. It's not him. Pierre is not a very intelligent, creative, or forceful guy. He's just there, and it's my turn, and that's sort of the thing. And when you talked about Kenny and Aaron O'Toole, what happened? They didn't, they didn't come down to our level. They were just. It was an illusion. Like they were paper tigers. They were never real leaders. They didn't earn or fight their way up there. They were just placed there like light bulbs, and they're thrown away without the backing and legitimacy and support of the Conservative Party and CBC and the government. They're nothing, and they can't contend with Morgan on Twitter. Like that's who they are. They're not anything. They are worms put like Krang in the was it the Ninja Turtles? The alien and the robot cyborg is just a little brain alien thing in this giant body. And then when they're no longer in office, they're bouncing around with Katy Perry like an idiot on YouTube. Like, what are you? A powerful man who is sort of a force of nature on their own, doesn't need a government. He doesn't need any of these things. When he shows up, he does things and gets things done and accomplished because of who he is and inside, because he's gone up that hill and done that work. And when these people are removed they're nothing. They have no respect. No one cares. They have to say they can't do anything. They resort to this because they never were anything in the first place. It was an illusion. So, I mean, that's what we're dealing with as far as the leadership in this country. So at least they're incompetent. They're not really to be afraid of. But I did say this about Carney when he was elected. I said, this isn't good, because at least with Trudeau, he was a buffoon and didn't know what he was doing, obviously, and was just clearly way out of his depth and a moron, and his whole cabinet reflected that, and the choices and things he made reflected that. So, but then we got, this banker guy who's, an associate of the Epsteins, at least from Ghislaine Maxwell. His wife is friends with the whole thing. There's pictures of them together. That's a problem. He's clearly rubbing shoulders with some very, troubling people at a minimum. He's been a banker his whole life and career, which is one of the worst professions to be, in my opinion. It's predatory. It's preying on people like a parasite and squeezing them for every last dollar. That's what banking is. It's not an honorable profession. It's not something anyone should look up to. It's crazy that it's even allowed. It's illegal. It used to be the death sentence in the Holy Roman Empire. Usury was death. You can't lend someone money and then get more back, or else you take their house. They used Islam. I think they're getting over that now just lightly, but I think even up till very recently in Islam, it was also death penalty, or at least a crime, and it should be. Like, he's not a good person. His company and everything they're doing is just stealing and milking for themselves. There's not a shred of evidence anywhere in his entire life that I can see that he cares about the people of this country, or what's good for them, or our legacy, or our identity, or if we're okay. Like, nothing anywhere, any to suggest that at all. It's just catchphrases for boomers and elbows. But the reality is more dead people, more drugs, more homelessness, more violence, and more laws to shut the people up from basically screaming in pain that they're hurt. That's their response, as it was in Ottawa. That's what that was. It was a collection of the people of the country saying, hey, we need to talk because we're not happy in this relationship. Right? Things are not going well. You're throwing stuff at us in the kitchen. You're coming home drunk and beating us out. Like, this isn't going well. We need to have a chat. And then they just made it worse and assaulted them and, did everything that they did. So this isn't going to end well. They just refuse to talk like people. This isn't a democracy. It's property. They consider us like property, and they treat us as such. And because people have no dignity and self-respect, for the most part, not everybody, we don't stick up for ourselves, and we put up with way too much. And that's because people don't look in the mirror and say, you deserve better than this. You can do better than this. You're better than this. Tuck your shirt in. Get pants that fit. Stop screwing your life. Stop wasting your life on stupid. Like, stop accepting, oh, it is what it is, and I can't do it. Yes, you can. The minute you stop and just accept it is what it is, you're just now coasting. You've taken your foot off the gas. You're just going to coast the rest of the way through your life and be at the mercy of everyone else's will instead of imposing your own. What do you want to do? That's what we ask our children when they're in school. What do you want to do when you grow up? Who do you want to be? What do you want your life to look like? Because we want them to. That's why you're here. You're not here to be a cog in a machine for some company somewhere. Your life is for you, and you should navigate it and live it and make the decisions that you want to do that suit the development and journey that you want to have. Not to make Mark Carney and Brookfield an extra $1 billion. It's a waste of a life. You've been reduced to nothing but a slave and just a part of a machine to make some other asshole who probably is on an Epstein list somewhere some more money. So the dignity and the self-respect of the people has to be reinvigorated big time. And that's, again, where nationalism, that's the bread and butter of what that is. They'll say it's about racism. It's about this, it's that. They like to play these reverse kind of double Uno things and to say what it's not. But no, it's based on your own people and yourself and what makes you unique and what makes you special, what makes you you, what makes you Canadian. Why aren't you American or British or any of these other things? It's because of this. Like, why are you a MacKenzie? Why are you a Wycliffe? Why are you that? Because that's my dad and that's my mom and that's who these people are. That's why we talk this way. That's why our family dinners are like this. That's why all of these things, good and bad. That's what makes you you. That's what makes you unique, and you're not someone else. And every people everywhere in the world should be and need to be able to accept that and embrace that and be proud of that, whoever they are, wherever they are. That's who you are. That's good. That's healthy. That's normal. What's not normal is rejecting yourself and saying there's inherently evil pieces of your own DNA that need to be suppressed and canceled and legislated out. That's crazy. That's evil. And that's very oppressive and something we would never have accepted doing to anyone else in any time period in history. It was the Europeans and the British Empire that fought to end slavery, and people died in the pursuit of that aim. It wasn't China. It wasn't Saudi Arabia. They did this. So, there's, again, I'm rambling now a bit, but there's a lot going on here. And it's the spirit at the very end of the day that animates all these things. Why do this or why do that? Because it's the right thing to do. That's where it all comes from. And if that's the compass and that's the North Star, and we know what that is if we're being honest. I don't always listen to it, but when I don't, I usually get in trouble. But I always feel like I always know what it is. But doing what it wants and following it is another story. But we're human, and that's the whole point. That's why we're here. And pretending that game doesn't exist is, well, that's how you end up like Mark Miller. So. Yeah.
No, very well said, sir. Very well said. I think we should wrap it up here. What do you think?
Sure.
Did you want to promote anything?
Not really. I'm going to go do some grifting. Well, I am in the middle of, I was working on it a bit today. I'm almost done. I'm rebooting my own podcast that I've had, not been at for, I think about a month now. Not sure.
Now with 10% less bigotry.
I don't know about that, but it was 7 years of basically doing a similar version of the same thing. And it just, the times have changed and the rules have changed and the laws have changed and all this. And it's just, again, provided me an opportunity and a great reason and excuse to just kind of cut the rope and re-examine everything and recalibrate and reconfigure everything and decide that, how I want to move forward instead of just doing the same old thing every day. And I'm going to be soon. I don't know. I don't want to give a timeline on it because it's a whole new process and a whole new kind of way I'm going to try to do this than I have in years past. It's a significant departure from what I've been used to doing. So it's a whole different setup and process, and it's very slow. I told Morgan, she's like, "Are you still working on this?" I said, "It's like having the power out in your own house. Like, I know where everything is, and I know where I live, but I can't see anything. So I'm banging into stuff, and I'm fumbling around in the dark, and I'm like, I think that's my pants. I don't know. So it's just taking a while because it's something I'm not familiar with, and I'm getting there. But soon, I'm nearly there. I had to redesign some things and do some graphics, and I got Wiretap helped me with a intro video and stuff, and we're gonna be.
Oh, really? So this is gonna be like a whole new look for the stream or for the podcast.
I mean, I'm stuck with this dungeon here, but I'm very lucky. I got a great spot here, and but I'm going to try to do something a little bit different than I have been, and then I'm going to be 60, 90 minutes tops. It's ambitious for me, right? I'm going to try to dial this in, but then I'll take a 10, 15 minute break, and then I'll come back and do something a little more like this. We'll do some audience interaction, read the chats, and all that. So I'm going to try to compromise.
Derek Schittler said, "Back to the Woodshed show."
The woodshed. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I never had a wood shed. It was more like a wood pile in a basement next to an old coal furnace from the Civil War era. But that's because I was on house arrest. The government wouldn't let me go anywhere, so I had to stay home.
That setup probably had the most aura. That big furnace in the back. We got a super chat from Arsenault. $5. No acknowledgement necessary. Good job, guys. By the way, half McDonald here. There you go. So do you know when that new show is going to be debuting? When's the premiere, sir?
I had hoped to get it out before nationals, but didn't happen. And then afterward, there was a lot to do with the club, administrative stuff, and it was restructuring and because it's huge. It's way bigger than it was. There's so many people involved. It's just, it's been 2 years. It's developed a lot. There's been a lot of experience and talent added, and things have changed. So the scaffolding and kind of like playpen that it had been created for it, it's just outgrown it. So it needs to be configured, and we're in the middle of doing that. So now just last 4 or 5 days, I've had some time to kind of breathe and start working on this. So hope not too much longer, but certainly before the end of the month. But maybe next week, maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll see. I'm pretty close to getting ready to fire something off here, but it's just a matter of rearranging the pieces and kind of figuring out what it is I'm doing rather than just turn it on and going,
Right.
It's waste. I don't want to waste anybody's time, but we'll see. I hope it goes well. If it doesn't, we're all just going to go to jail anyway. You gotta play the game again. They're creating the conditions that have forced me to do it this way anyway. And it's just, again, it's forcing you to just try harder, which is always what has been the case. If what we were doing before 7 years ago, 10 years ago was enough, if it was good enough, we wouldn't be here. And it's, I don't want to give anything away, but my strategy is going to be different than it's been. And
for those curious, Jeremy has developed a sophisticated AI censoring technology, which is going to, while he's in the middle of his, red-faced, screaming, raging, there's going to be bleeps and blurs to make sure that he does not technically break the law. Imagine some mess of sensors and AI. Oh my gosh.
I wish, but we have a lot of problems, obviously. But the biggest one is the one that nobody wants to deal with, which is us. It's ourselves. We are our own biggest problem. We are in our own way.
It's going to be like a self-improvement style thing.
It's a big self. The entire country is of a self, and we're all a part of that. And we're all part of the tribe and the tree and the country. And that's really where it has to go, because I'm proof of that. And the guys in the club and around that are proof of that. And you can't have a positive impact on the things around you if you don't improve. Like, your own ability to do those things comes with, the putting the work on your own self and your own ability, and what kind of condition you're in, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. All these things, they're all important. They all matter. And until we get out of our own way and accept where we are and do better and work harder as individuals, as teams, as groups, as towns, communities, all that, we're going to keep getting the same results. And if we're just going to accept complaining and doom scrolling all day, why would anything change? That's what we did last year, 5 years ago, and that's what people have been doing. And before there was doom scrolling, there was watching the news and complaining, and reading the newspaper and complaining. There's passive observation, and then there's choosing, which anyone can do, to become active, which is just making decisions and choices and orienting your life around this idea that they want you to be unhealthy. They don't like healthy, strong people who have self-respect and courage and discipline, and they're very difficult to push around. If a country of those people, they're not doing COVID mandates and lockdowns, and they're not bullying their coworkers and their friends and family to comply with a television that lies to them. Those people would never do that. They say, well, this would never have worked in the 50s and the 60s. Exactly, because those people had self-respect, and they had some, they cared, they took themselves seriously. So that's a problem. And that's something that is totally fixable. You just choose to do it. It doesn't have to be overnight and all in one day, but you just look yourself in the mirror and go, I can do better than this. And more so than that, the people around you deserve you to do better than that, because they rely on you. Everybody I rely on people rely on me. And that's just how, it is. Life is a team sport. And if you're not operating at the best, you're not doing the best you can as a person, well, then you're cheating everybody else, but you're also cheating yourself. You're not going to get the best life that you could have because you're lazy, because you don't want to try harder. I'm just going to eat poison and lay around all day and whine on the internet. Well, you can, but you're going to be sad someday and realize I didn't do anything. I wasted 10 years, 20 years, the best years of my life. All these things because I was wrapped up in just, how much hours of time of your life can be summarized by this? If it's a number you're not comfortable with, you should probably do something about that. And when you make it your mission, it's like, well, how is me getting healthier and stronger going to do anything for the country? You are the country. We are all part of the country as individual cogs in the machine. And choosing to do that's your end. That's your part. You're going to carry your own rucksack and just try. You don't have to win today or tomorrow, but just try to do something. And you'll start to build this momentum, and you'll start to have some more respect for yourself. Somebody's, I can't even walk up a hill. Well, I walked halfway and fell down, but that's more than I did yesterday. So the version of you today is better than the one you were yesterday. And you just keep doing this, and you keep finding more and more things. And it's out of, I chose to do it this way because I'm a soldier and I'm a fighter, and that's just how I am. But it became clear to me that this is all being done to us in a lot of ways. And we're allowing it to happen because we are our own biggest enemy. But there is a force out there doing this to us, and it wants you to not try and be lazy and just quit and all these things. So everything you do in rebellious, energy towards that is an act of rebellion, and you are fighting on your own as an individual. In that way, you're strengthening your own spirit, and it's contagious. Courage is contagious, and fear is contagious. So you can choose one or the other. And it's going to be very hard to legislate laws around helping people do that. Just by doing this, by definition, it's pro-Canadian. It's pro our own team. It doesn't have anything to do with targeting or attacking anybody else. And strengthening and building up our own side and our own networks, our communities, developing and building institutions and businesses and communities, all of these things helps us, strengthens us, puts us in a better position to fight and resist the forces out there that are working against us. Whereas sitting around and going, all these people make me mad all the time. That's nice, but that doesn't do anything. It does. It gets attention and brings people together, but then what? If that's as far as you go, well then, again, so I guess thank you very much to our enemies for making that, forcing us to take this leap and take this jump. And because as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. You may not know what to do, but when you're forced to, shit or get off the pot, as they say, then something will come to you. Trust me, because you'll need to. And that's the realm they forced us in. They want to oppress us and spy on us and do all these kinds of things. Well, it's not. Canadians have never run from a fight. We have never lost a war. We are known for our courage. That is almost part of the defining myth of who we are around the world. When people think of the Canadians, what do they say in Belgium, in the Netherlands about us, or in America, where they used to say we're, the Devil's Brigade. They sourced us out and found out plaid-wearing, Canadian maniacs to fill out the Devil's Brigade, which became the prototype for global special forces operations around the world. That's what we're known for. We are not people that give up and run away. We are very creative. We have a good sense of humor, and we're very stubborn. And we're going to find ways to continue to fight this, whether they make it illegal to have electricity or not. It won't matter because, again, my mission that I've chosen to make it is this. And whatever they throw in the way and do is it's just another chapter in the story. It's another round in the fight, and I don't really care. It's just something else to deal with at that time. There's never going to be a point where they've won, because it's a fight for the spirit in your soul, and it's the most important fight of all. So that's to the end, and I've gained a great sense of fulfillment and purpose and meaning out of doing so. I've been able to bring a lot of positive experiences and help to people around me who otherwise wouldn't have been able to do it, and it's been very life-affirming. In a place like this, devoid of purpose and meaning and nihilism and consumerist nonsense, without this, I don't know if I would even be alive, to be honest. So, that's the rant I have there on that, and working on it. I'll be back soon, hopefully next week, but we'll see. We'll see how long how much more I procrastinate with this. I'm nervous to do a new thing. Somebody says, "Oh, well, are you nervous about it?" I said, "Oh, no, it's just a highly volatile, fickle market industry that can drop you that's changing all the time. And why not radically change it all up and screw with the wiring and everything? It'll work fine." I don't know. I think it'll go well. I think it'll be a good change.
No, it was a good rant. I just got a $5 super chat from Mitch Murphy. 30 days to stop the spread of courage. And he puts a mask emoji face. Yeah. And I was just thinking while you were talking there, how ironic it is. They're trying to pass this bill, or they have passed this law for hate speech. And in reality, it's like the establishment hates you. You know,
Yes.
you call out powerful people and you empower regular people. They fucking hate that. They hate that. They hate that, and they do everything they can to foment hatred against you. So it's all very ironic.
Stochastic terrorism. I'll have 2 quotes. One will remain a mystery because we're on YouTube and the new laws. I got to be careful what I say, so I'll let people look it up for themselves. And the other one I'll start with is from Derek, actually, which is, if you want to go back and, really kind of nail this down, like, what is it we're doing? Well, he said, well, hate speech is illegal. What about love speech? And the other quote is when someone was asked about a historical figure of a certain popularity, they said, why? Why would you listen to anything that they had to say? Or why would you follow? Like, what compelled you to do that? And the person said, he made us feel like ourselves again.
Interesting.
That is how we beat them. We don't need to point out how shitty they are all the time. We all know that. There's a missing piece, and the missing piece is us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm tempted to go on a whole other rant about the Conservative Party, but we can save that for another time. If you, for some reason, don't know Jeremy's, let's get that guy off screen. Make sure you follow Jeremy MacKenzie. You can go to his website, jeremymackenzie.ca. Obviously, check out Second Sons as well. Canadian Men's Nationalist Club. A lot of your work's been really great, by the way. Loved CBC Hates White People. That was just perfection.
I'm proud of that one. I worked on that for a while. They had that coming. I've been sitting on a lot of those feelings and thoughts for CBC for a long time. But I should mention we did have our largest event out in Alberta recently over a weekend on the 4th of July weekend. We had a huge, tons of guys. It was amazing. I can't even say enough about it. I felt like $1 million when that was done. The guys had a great time. And more to come. And we're going to be releasing some video on that in the future, near future. It could be a month or so. I don't know how long the editing's going to take. We've got a few guys we're cracking the whip on to, get it done. But we've got 2 days of footage and audio and video and all kinds of things to cover and put together and chop up, and some interviews and all sorts of things. So we're going to have that coming in the future. There'll be a little trailer teaser there and there'll be another one in another week or two, maybe a third one before we get it out. But it's coming along, and I'm very proud of these guys. One guy, like I took these guys for a near 10-kilometer death march through the Rocky Mountain foothills, and one man did it on a prosthetic leg. They showed up. They all showed up at 6 a.m. sharp, standing there, lined up, 6 a.m. ready to go. And I saw this one fellow with a prosthetic leg, and I thought, ooh, that's. Well, I mean, let him try. I mean, I'm not going to tell him no if he's, he wants to try. I'm not going to tell him no. Sure enough, he toughed it out and got it done. So now I can't complain ever about anything being too physically hard because I have both of my legs. So This is, kind of a double-edged sword. But
his thigh on his. Like he has like the thigh on the one leg, right? It must be super.
Yeah, it's from the knee down. Yeah, right. From the knee down.
That's crazy.
And he, I'll let him tell his story eventually, but he lost it from drugs. It was fentanyl that ended up costing him that, and then he went completely in the other direction. And he's doing very well. He's very healthy. He's doing he's quite strong, considering doesn't have a leg, and it's very inspiring for the other guys to see and understand. And this just goes to show you. I mean, there's people out there that are probably in that, addicted to drugs and ruined. They still got both your legs. Like, he's all right. There's never a place you can go. You're so far down into the ruin that you cannot escape. And that's something that we're trying to bring back to a lot of guys. And there's no place for them. There's no society or group or anything that's for them. And we're doing our very best to bring that back and build something that can serve them and empower them and build them up and give them a place to belong and have some meaning and purpose, and then as a follow-on effect, be of benefit to their friends and family and community. And again, stronger men have stronger families and stronger communities and stronger nations. And then, away we go. And there's an event coming up. I don't know if I want to advertise it, but I think shortly, Derek and some guys are throwing a community event at a weekend here later in the month. And that's something else we're going to be trying to, because we've had people complain, I understand, but they're like, oh, what about us and me? And I can't do everything and be everywhere at once. But of course we value the community and the people. And that's why we're doing it. I said to the guys, like, this is who you're fighting for, and they would love to see you, and you should see them and shake their hand and look them in the eyes. So, and feel that there's these people out here, it gives them hope and it gives them a reason to not give up and continue. And it's very empowering. And it's very life affirming. And now we're just at the stage where, I'm satisfied it's not going to implode and fall apart on its own. It's been 2 years and things are running fairly smoothly. So we're going to start to try to implement these sort of community outreach sort of things with people friends and family and people we trust. And we'll bring them in and just do the things we used to do, like enjoy each other's company and just have some barbecues and play some music and get to know each other. And the stuff that Canada used to do, the things that we used to do in our summers and our times, the reasons we did go to work is so we could have these experiences and get to the cottage in the summertime on the lake and see everybody and do all that kind of stuff, because it's empowering. It empowers us and vice versa. So we're going to be trying to do more of that in the future. Hopefully this weekend goes well, and then maybe we'll set up a couple more. But going forward, we're going to try to do more to implement, do more to include and bring in a lot of the wider community. Myself and the podcast and the Agalon people and anybody else who just happens to be maybe they're politically homeless, as they like to say, or spiritually homeless, or just whatever they're doing. It sounds better than what I'm doing.
Maybe they just want to learn how to throw a left hook. Maybe they just want to.
Yeah, maybe you don't have to, but it is again. It's great. And the guys, it's funny. I'm sorry, I'm rambling now. I'm taking too much time. But when we first started, a lot of guys were they don't want to do it. They're very timid. Like, oh, I don't have to fight anybody, do I? I was like, well, you don't have to. I mean, it'd be not. I mean, eventually you probably should, but we'll let them, cook on it for a little bit. And now they can't stop. Now I had to separate. It's like, guys, stop each other up. Yeah, you're gonna get killed. You're going to the hospital. Oh yeah, some of these guys have developed they're addicted to it. Once you realize I'm not going to die from getting 16-ounce gloves on. You're not going to die. It's just ow, but
this is like
it's a whole other element to your being, especially as a man, right? It's just a whole other. It's the intangibles. It's not about fighting. The Gilmores, these people, we're training to what? Fight the government in a boxing match? I don't know. It's the discipline that it requires and the mental focus and the anxiety and controlling all of that and fear and confrontation. It's very empowering. It's very good for you. And it's very, you can do it in a very safe way where nobody's getting beat to death or anything. We've got professionals and there's guys who have referee experience and there are doctors and paramedics and firemen. We have all kinds of things. So it's not, crazy, bare knuckle in a parking lot till somebody dies, kind of thing. But it's, I've watched them develop and evolve and become, stronger, better, more capable. They get up and they go, throughout their day, through life, and they have a little more, still a little more juice, a little more energy, and a little more of a little more of a look in their eye that maybe they can go a little further than they thought, and that's all it takes. And you just keep nurturing that and keep encouraging that and watch what happens.
Sounds like a lot of hate. Sounds like
it's a lot of hate.
A lot of hateful stuff going on there. No, very inspiring as always.
They stink and I hate them.
Thanks again for coming on the show. What?
Cheers. Absolutely. I said, I love Dave Chappelle. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. And I hope everything's going well with you guys, and enjoy the rest of summer. I'm sure we'll be talking.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll just do a quick outro here. But again, the one and only Jeremy MacKenzie. We'll see what happens July 18th. I don't think anything's going to happen.
Website.
But
all the stuff's on my website, jeremymackenzie.ca. It's all I did it over. It's a new website. You can everything you need to know is on there.
Nice. Yeah, no, I checked it out. It looks good.
Cheers.
Go to jeremymackenzie.ca. I'll put it on screen right there for a sec. Look at that. Looks like a motivational speaker. Sounds like one too.
I live in a van down by the river. Almost.
Right.
Sort of. It's not the short off.
That's a good one. All right. Thanks for coming on the show, man. Appreciate it. I'm sure we'll be seeing you in the future. Looking forward to the new format. And until next time, sir.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, he's in the upcoming documentary. Some of the best clips of the documentary, Jeremy MacKenzie is in. So I'm excited to be pushing back against Bill C-34, which is going to be the bill that installs a bunch of censorship on the Canadian internet. If you want to support that, you can go to givesendgo.com/savefreespeech to help the documentary fund. And thank you so much for watching, guys, as always. Until next time, I'll try to get another stream going tomorrow with another dissident before C-9 comes into effect. But thanks so much for watching, and until next time.
Trust my own eyes. Study said the expert experts claim the world will never be the same. The research shows, the study proves. Trust the experts. This is false, it's misunderstood. It's been debunked. This isn't good. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. It's all your fault.